After last year's epic championship fight that came down to a most wins tiebreaker, we're setting up for another classic as we enter the final 3 races of 2012. The AAA Texas 500 from Texas Motor Speedway, the next chapter in the championship story. The engine's firing in just moments. Let's talk championship. Jimmie Johnson said at Martinsville that you're going to have to win races to win this championship. Well, after Martinsville, Johnson and Keselowski have gotten a little separation from Clint Bowyer, Kasey Kahne, and the rest. So are the 2 and 48 racing each other, or they still have to go for wins?
I think after last year's championship, these guys still have to go for win. That could be the determining factor. So you better get as many of those victories as you possibly can. On the other side of that, don't lose sight of these guys in 3rd and 4th. Clint Bowyer and Kasey Kahne are very capable of winning at these last 3 racetracks. They could find themselves right back in the middle of this championship battle. So winning at all costs.
Yeah, the way that they distance themselves from the rest of the field was that they're at an extremely high level performance-wise. To beat each other, they're going to have to win. I believe they're going to have to win races. Whoever wins the championship is going to have to win some of these last 3 races.
The last couple of races here at Texas Motor Speedway have set new track records for fastest race speed. And you see the last 3 races, the longest green flag run at the end of the race from the last yellow flag to the checkered. It's been a long one. How's that going to affect the race today?
Well, I think you're going to see these championship contenders, they do a good job of adjusting their cars, but they're going to have to do that because this track's going to change a lot. These long green flag runs will really test that and how your car will react to that. But I really believe, though, that the 2 and the 48 do a really good job of keeping up with it.
Yeah, and you're going to have to, as a driver, you're going to have to manage 2 things. The tires on the race car, because this racetrack will wear them out. If you try to go too hard, too quickly, the other is going to be fuel. In that situation, we know the 2 is a little bit better than the 48. Will be interesting to see what happened. Clint Bowyer won at Charlotte by saving his fuel.
Yep, he did. And in the April race here at Texas, Jimmie Johnson led the most laps, but got passed in the final 30 laps by Greg Biffle, who went on to win the race. How's this one going to play out? Will there be a late twist? Who comes away with the trophy at the end of 500 miles in Texas? It's time to start finding out as we go trackside. The cast of the TV show Dallas to start them up.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's race time in Texas.
Drivers, start your engines!
Got a copy, so you can crank it up when you're ready.
Rick, can you go to the truck? Louder as you've been the last couple of weeks, I don't know why.
Now we got fine. For you.
Time to go with race number 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup on a simply splendid Sunday afternoon in Fort Worth, Texas. Last race on a 1.5-mile track was won by our ESPN in-race reporter, Kansas Clint Bowyer, who combined a pretty sporty race car with pretty timely fuel strategy to score the win in Charlotte. That his 3rd of the season. He won on the road course in Sonoma, the short track in Richmond, and the 1.5 mile in Charlotte. Can Clint win and keep himself in the championship conversation? Race number 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. With the championship ever so close, how will this 500 miles at Texas Motor Speedway play into which driver hoists that trophy in 3 weeks? The competition for the championship playing out within the overall race in the field of 43 starters, getting ready to roll out onto the track for the parade and pace laps before the green flag today here in Texas. And a quick review of the points picture beginning the day. Jimmie Johnson, the 5-time champ, taking the point lead from Brad Keselowski last Sunday in Martinsville, but barely. Then there are 2 others, Clint Bowyer and Kasey Kahne, about a half a pack behind where any individual race is concerned. And Kahne, someone to keep an eye on for today's win.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He knows how to get the job done here, and he knows that's what he has to do to keep himself in this battle.
Looked to me like he had a pretty sporty car in yesterday's final practice. Our ESPN in-race reporter today is that 3rd-place driver in the championship, Clint Bowyer. He's starting in 4th.
Hey, Clint, it's Dale Jarrett with ESPN. These 1.5-mile tracks at the beginning of the year weren't really your strong suit, but you've certainly come around with the victory at Charlotte, a strong run at Kansas. Did you get this race car where you can win today?
I think so. This is the car we won with at Charlotte. Done a really good job of working hard, helping me out on these 1.5 miles. Toyotas have come a long way in the engine compartment. Everybody knows they got to build horsepower, but they got to make good fuel mileage too. We've done both, so real proud of all my guys. Had a great year. We've got to keep digging and hopefully get us another win here and get back in this hunt for the championship.
Hey, Clint, I've seen you around the garage area in our pit studio on Friday before qualifying and during qualifying. You seem really relaxed and happy with what's going on right now. That leads us to our mailbag question from Laura in Lincoln, Nebraska. Do you prepare for these final 3 races differently, knowing you have to get all you can get in order to win the championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brian actually just asked me, we're going for the championship, aren't we? And yes, certainly when you get this close, that's what you got to do. But we got to take care of business. You know, we can't do anything stupid. But we got a really good balance on our car. We've got good speed. We just got to pass this 48. It's just, what, 3 cars in front of me. Somehow put some distance in between him and the 2 and go back after this championship.
All right, Clint. Well, good luck in that. Good luck in this race. Thanks for talking with us. And now Andy's going to talk to your crew chief, Brian Patty.
Hey, Brian Patty, it's Andy Petrie in the booth. This is a tough racetrack to get a hold of, and sometimes even tougher to keep up with. How are you going to play that today? Are you going to react to the way the car is handling, or are you going to try to predict the way the track's going to go?
Well, 12 months ago, I wasn't even at the racetrack, so I watched this on TV. So just living off some notes. The guy's done a good job engineering to give me all I asked for here. And yeah, obviously it's hot and warm here, kind of like the first practice yesterday. So we had some good notes there, had good speed in the first practice. And then when it cools down, we kind of know what it's going to do. So we'll try to stay up with it.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Maybe we'll check in with you later, see how it's going. Thanks for talking to us, Brian.
Thanks, guys.
And Quicken Loan shows us that Clint Boyer has been amazing in this chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Very solid, average finish, win.
Done everything you can ask. Got himself in that position now.
It sounds like he's got a game plan for trying to gain some points today, too, when you talk to him there. Our over-the-wall camera today is with Nick Sutton, Jackman for Landon Castle's number 83 team, huddling up with his guys. Have a good day there, Nick.
Thank you.
And a look at our ESPN high-definition onboard cameras that'll take you inside the action today. Brad Keselowski has got the Dodge on board, the championship leader. And Casey Kane has got the Sprint camera.
Today, buddy, you guys had a heck of a year. This is your kind of track, so get her done, baby.
Mr. H on the radio there. Denny Hamlin has the Fresh from Florida Gulf Seafood camera. And Clint Boyer with our 5-hour energy on board. There's Jeff Gordon with the Goodyear camera.
Good luck today, Jeff. Go get him, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I feel good about it. I'm excited.
Sound like the boss man's making the rounds. Kevin Harvick has got the Ream on board. Left side door repaired from that skydiving incident. Jimmy Johnson with the Lowe's camera.
Jimmy, one thing to remember here. The outside of the pit box is the white line. Here, the white line, not the concrete. So your right side tires are going to be on asphalt.
There you go, Chad Knaus in there. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. has got the Chevy on board. And as we close in on the green flag, we check in on pit road with Vince Welch.
Well, Alan, it's tough to put in perspective the disappointment of Kyle Busch and this 18 team and what they've experienced this season. Missing the chase, well, you just can't erase that frustration. But a win in one of these final 3 races or multiple victories down the stretch would go a long way toward easing the pain. You know, 4 times this season, Kyle's led the most laps, but hasn't brought home a win in any of those races. They hope to change that today. Dave Burns?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. wanted a top 10 finish at Martinsville last week to help erase the recent medical layoff that he had had. Instead, they finished 28th and now looks at Texas to, quote, do it the right way. And they've got a chance. Even though they start 19th, crew chief Steve Letarte told me they had speed and enough balance in the car to where they made hardly any changes for this afternoon's race. And his last 3 finishes here at Texas, all top 10s. Jamie Little.
When Jimmy Johnson took over the points lead last week, some people counted Brad Keselowski out and said, well, that's the nail in the coffin. His championship hopes are over. Well, in typical Keselowski fashion, he laughed it off and let his driving do the talking. On Friday, he had his best qualifying effort during the chase. And yesterday, he was the fastest in both practice sessions. He has some tricks up his sleeve. Dr. Jerry Punch.
Yeah, when Jimmy Johnson assumed the chase points lead after last week's win at Martinsville, he re-entered a comfort zone. When you've won a championship 5 times, you're more accustomed to being the guy chased or hunted. Now, Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus can now play to their strengths. They know they got the best driver and best pit crew on pit road. They know if they just don't make mistakes, and by the way, Chad can't let this become a fuel mileage race because that may be one of their few weaknesses. Alan?
Race number 8 in the chase, Doc. Underway, green flag in Texas. Jimmy Johnson to lead lap 1. 1 bonus point toward the championship for leading a lap. Second place, Kyle Busch inside in the 18. Greg Biffle on the outside in the 16 with a little slide there.
Biff trying to find some grip up there in that second lane right now. Not sure it's going to be there at this point in time.
Truex 56, Boyer 15, Carl Edwards 99. The front 6 broken away just a little bit from 7th place on back. Carl Edwards has been so good at this Texas track over the years, and what a long dry spell for that 99.
Yeah, it's just be a great track for him to wake up out of this whatever dream he's been in and not winning races. It's been so long. You know it's going to happen. It could happen today.
There's Clint Boyer chasing his teammate Martin Truex Jr.
Now you will have to ask ourselves and keep an eye on this. Cars that are good right now during this first 100, 200 miles of the race, as this racetrack changes, are they still going to be able to keep up with the racetrack and be good when it comes time to win later?
Yeah, we saw last night Kyle Busch got out there a long way the first run, but then after that he just wasn't able to keep pace with the other cars and Kevin Harvick.
Speaking of Kyle Busch, he's in second now. I think he's someone that these chase drivers are going to have to deal with here. He's had a great chase. Unfortunately, he's not part of it.
Here's a look back through about the first 15 cars. Jeff Gordon 24, just overtaking Kurt Busch in the 78 for the 15th spot. On board with Jeff.
This gets such an incredible sensation of speed here at this track. I don't know. It's just like the layout looks a lot like a lot of mile and a half, but you just really seem to get a more sensation of speed. Maybe it's all the bumps and character that it has.
Denny Hamlin, Trevor Bayne, 11 and 21. Hamlin moving by, then just that little bobble up the racetrack, but Bayne couldn't cut back underneath it.
I think it's the entry into these corners where you go from a flat straightaway, the banking, you don't enter it until you're carrying a lot of speed, 200 miles an hour down into it, and you don't pick up all of that banking that you need, and that really gives you kind of an uneasy, loose feeling entering turns 1 and 3 here at this racetrack. That's what makes you feel that sensation of speed that you were talking about, Andy.
Jeff Gordon trying that wide line. I talked to Alan Gustafson yesterday, and he said this is turning into our kind of track, like Atlanta, where the tires fall off. The driver has to search around and find the grip that matches his car's handling. He said we could be tough tomorrow.
Almost everybody I talked to in the garage did liken this racetrack to what Atlanta is, and it's really become that. And I think that you see a lot of people that were good at Atlanta will be good here. Jeff Gordon was one of those.
And checking back in on Carl Edwards in 6th, trying to take 5th away from Clint Boyer. Catching him's one thing, passing him's another. And we invite you to check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy during today's AAA Texas 500 to watch coverage live from Texas Motor Speedway by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Eric Almirola, Jeff Gordon, 13th, 14th, and 15th there. Gordon's car doing that little dance over those bumps in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, a lot of the goodies gone off these tires already. They're like a second and quarter slower than they were on their fastest lap, which means these tires have given up quite a bit of grip pretty quick.
So Kevin Harvick, the bizarre story before the race of the skydiver coming in and the weight hanging from the bottom of the Texas state flag slamming into the left side door of that 29 car. Just when you think you've seen it all at a racetrack.
Yeah, just when you think you have maybe. And I've been watching Kevin here early on. He won the nationwide race last night here, utilizing that top groove a lot. He's moved up there, making a lot of passes, carrying a ton of speed off these corners, off of turns 2 and 4, making some passes early on.
Kevin started in 23rd position, Dave. He's running in 23rd.
And of course, they didn't have to give up that starting position. NASCAR allowed them to go back to the garage and repair this car. Front tire changer Jason Pulver worked on it. He's a body hanger at the shop, normally changes tires here at the track. And I asked the engineers if it would have made any difference if they had had to leave it. They said they might have lost a couple of counts of downforce off the left rear of that car, and that would be traction. So they definitely wanted the opportunity to fix it.
Well, it certainly was unusual. I know, Dale, you've hit a door at a racetrack that was left loose one time, tore up the front end of your race car.
There's all kinds of things that happen, but I'd never seen the skydiver make a difference in a race car here.
Well, you're about to see it again. As if you missed it earlier, what happened to Kevin Harvick as his car sat on the grid before the race? Watch the black thing hanging at the end of the flag there, the sandbag, bang. It was different. Looking down on race leader Jimmy Johnson at Texas Motor Speedway from our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Jimmy Johnson indeed the front runner for the start of the race, and we ask you which driver you think will take first out of this week's top 4 qualifiers. Johnson, DeBiff, Kyle, or Kansas Clint. Text FAST to 34763 or go to attfastestdriver.com to play. You could have a chance to win 4 Gs by playing along in today's AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Every week you have a chance to make your pick and see where you stack up against the rest. So, Johnson leading from the pole every lap so far. Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, Martin Truex Jr., and Clint Bowyer round out your top 5. Let's check down to the 15 pit with Vince.
Well, one of the keys for all these drivers is when they can move up a lane on this racetrack. And Clint Bowyer using his spotter, Brett Griffin, for some advice.
Moving up! Not any higher than you are. The 24 is starting to play a little bit higher, but he didn't get a good run yet. He's straddling the bottom seam.
Griffin continually updating Bowyer on where the other cars on the track are and how their car happens to be handling. He just advised Bowyer, if you straddle the seam in 3 and 4, you're going to get a real good run off turn 4. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it's always nice that you've got a spotter and a veteran spotter like Brett Griffin that can look at these other cars, do his job with you there and help you out a little bit, because it's hard to see around you and know that if there's cars coming from behind maybe in particular that might be utilizing a different groove, and you could give that a try.
Spotter stationed high atop the grandstand roof here at Texas Motor Speedway. Listen to Clint work that throttle there in the middle of the corner across the bumps. So that's Bowyer in 5th. Behind him, you've got Carl Edwards in 6th, Brad Keselowski in 7th, Mark Martin 8th, Joey Logano 9th, and the 10th place car, Casey Kane. Then Denny Hamlin, Trevor Bayne, and Jeff Gordon, who's moved up another spot, now into 13th place. And working on Bayne for another one.
You see, you have shadows on the racetrack from the Speedway Club and things that are down in turn 1. Here comes Brad Keselowski. He's been utilizing the bottom of the racetrack more.
Yeah, I saw most of the race so far. He has been on the bottom. I watched a couple of laps that he did try that middle groove off of turn 4. Obviously, that time he was down right on the white line.
Looked like those hands were pretty busy inside that windshield, too.
Yeah, if you're going to drive up off the bottom of the racetrack and your car's handling properly, you're going to have to kind of unwind the steering wheel. Have to run it a little bit on the loose side, but Brad likes to do that, Jamie.
Yes, he does, and he just radioed in that the car feels good. He's really happy with it. And his crew chief, Paul Wolf, told me this morning, this is the same tire they ran at Chicago. Brad Keselowski won there. He loves the feel of this tire, and that's why they're so confident coming into today.
And Jamie, these pictures we're looking at of Brad at work are a great illustration of just how on edge these guys that are running fast are. Sometimes when you look at these onboard cameras, it looks like they're out for a cruise, but these guys are working hard behind the wheel at this track at these speeds.
Yeah, you really have to, and the speed is the key thing. And again, with the 24 degrees of banking in the corners, it really flattens out off of turns 2 and 4. It's a handful for the driver. And oh yeah, you add the bumps and the lack of grip that you have here, makes it a hard day's work.
can just see right there how he's having to work the throttle, about half throttle through that section. Almost have to wait to get all the way on the straightaway to get full throttle. This is after the tires get laps on them. Now, when they're new, they can pretty well go to the throttle and leave it there in the middle of the corner.
Telemetry here from Sony's James Bond. Bet you Brad would like to have a couple of those other switches in his car that Bond has in his.
Now, he might have some very similar. You see how he's flipping them back and forth on the straightaway. They got fans in these cars all over, actually, on just about every corner that they can turn on and off. And when they do that, it changes a little bit of the aerodynamic characteristics of the car. They don't want to be using that unless they, it's not going to hurt the performance, say, on the straightaway. To close, they want to close those things on the straightaway, and then in the corners they can open them up to cool the different things like the gear or the brakes or whatever.
And they're doing this already in the race.
Oh yeah, you'll see Brad do this pretty much the whole race. We've seen Jimmy Johnson do it a lot too when we're riding with him.
Keselowski moving up a little bit in the early going, while Jimmy Johnson is moving out. Just what he's done since the start of the race. He qualified on pole position, and he's led every lap so far. The 5-time champ and championship leaders starting the day in pursuit of title number 6. Just 50 miles in at Texas today. A little early going domination by Jimmy Johnson as the race leader, and we invite you to stay tuned for NASCAR nonstop coverage during the second half of today's race, presented by Nationwide Insurance. While you ride with Jimmy, enter now for a chance to win a Jimmy Johnson personalized 2013 Camaro ZL1, plus a Daytona 500 race weekend for 2. Visit wincamarozl1.com now to enter.
On throttle, it's like I need to be patient. Let the left rear fall out of the fender on the wheel well to get on the track before I charge the throttle.
Yeah, I think what he's talking about there, some of these tricks they use in that rear suspension, has a lot to do with the way you use the throttle and how that reacts mechanically with the car. And I think that might be what he's talking about. I was talking to Steve Letard a little bit in the garage this morning, actually, about how that you have to drive that setup a little bit differently, and that they kind of watch the throttle trace, and some of the teammates will actually look at each other's throttle trace to see how to do that.
A couple of green flag pit stops here. Sam Hornish Jr. was in just a few laps ago from 20th place stock. He's back out on track now. What'd they find?
Well, Sam drove the nationwide race last night and thought he had a good feel for the car, and he radioed and said, I think I got a right front tire that's worn out, the car very tight, and thought he was dragging the right front. Now we're going to show you the right front tire that came off. You can see the numbers here, the wear indicators still showing on the tire, indicating the tire has plenty of tread left. But Sam felt the vibration of the tire might be going down, and at these speeds could not take a chance. So they made a track bar adjustment and put on 4 tires.
All right, Doc, so Sam out in 38th place now, a lap down to the race leader. Bobby Labonte was also just on and off pit road for a green flag stop.
Yeah, usually if you have a vibration in these cars at these speeds, it's not going to go away. So the best thing is, it's unfortunate that they didn't find anything there, but on the other side, it's always better to be a little safe.
So Jimmy Johnson there in the 48 with a 2.8 second advantage over second place Kyle Busch. Couple of lap cars there, and then your runner-up driver.
Car's pretty good. Little snug center. I'd leave it alone. Copy on that.
The plan for the first pit stop for the 18.
Hey, you're talking about being a little snug. That's not a bad place to be at this point of the race. If you get too loose here, you can't go at all. We saw a lot of cars last night that just kind of lost the handle to the loose side and just could not keep up.
Yeah, and as this racetrack cools off, and what we saw last night is that it is going to get freer for these guys, more loose.
Paul Menard on and off pit road. Matt Kenseth sliding back in the opening laps. Vince, what's up?
Yeah, Kenseth really been fighting a tight condition since early in the race, and you mentioned sliding back. He started 10th, currently is 19th. His team up on the wall, getting ready for his first stop coming up shortly.
All right, Vince. So keep an eye on the 17, who took the green flag in 10th place. Quickly coming up on what will be the first full round of green flag pit stops. We'll come back to the Texas Motor Speedway. Jimmy Johnson is the race leader. Big rush onto the pit lane, including Kyle Busch, the second place driver. Vince?
Kyle missed his box coming in, guys. They had to back him up, so it's going to be a long pit stop for Kyle Busch in this 18. 4-tire change for Busch.
Yeah, that clock didn't show just how much time they cost themselves there by missing that pit stall.
Got tangled up with a car that was leaving his pit stall. Vince, here's Clint Boyer.
Clint Boyer doesn't want any changes with the car. They've just been searching around on the line. Says a tick snug in the center, but otherwise it's pretty good. Doesn't want him to mess with it. 4-tire change at Sunoco Fuel. Now they're going to make a late chassis adjustment. Jamie?
Vince, Jeff Gordon said that his car was a little loose off, but really, really tight in the middle of the corner. So they'll make adjustments for Jeff and the 24 team. Sunoco Fuel going in. Jamie?
And Tony Stewart saying he's tight center and very sensitive getting into the corner. 4 tires, fill it up with Sunoco Fuel. You watched him wipe the grill. He's down, Vince.
There's the 56 of Martin Truex. Truex is going to get a 4-tire change, fill it up full of Sunoco Fuel. Says the car is okay. They haven't made any chassis adjustments to it here on this initial stop. Martin Truex, one of the fastest cars here all this weekend, and they like it so far.
Jimmy Johnson, the leader, not yet having pitted.
Yeah, one reason he might not be pitting yet is that 2 cars running second. If he pits, he'll give Brad Keselowski a bonus point.
And Denny Hamlin with the long trip down the pit lane, 45 miles an hour, the speed limit today on the pit road for safety. And Hamlin in front of Doc.
Talking about it's all about winning races now. After the problems last week in Martinsville, Denny said we are loose in the one, but we are tight everywhere else. Going to make an air pressure and chassis adjustment. There goes the left rear chassis adjustment. Got to get it full of fuel, top it off with Sunoco Fuel. Left side tires going on, trying to get a weight under 14 seconds, and he does. Jamie.
Brad Keselowski, you saw him sawing that wheel, but it's just the way he likes it. Said the car is good. 4 tires, they'll fill it up with Sunoco Fuel. You saw the wrench go in the back. They did make a wedge adjustment to help it a little bit. He was getting a little tight as it ran in. Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson on the right-hand side of your screen.
Car 48 pitting at lap 48 and headed down toward Dr. Jerry Punch.
This would be a scheduled pit stop. Jimmy Johnson saying doing pretty well. Chad Canals keep reminding him, baby those rear tires, baby those rears. Gentle coming in. Nice, perfect stop. Jimmy said the car had started to get a little bit free in turn 1. And Chad Canals told me this morning, I've got to stay ahead of the racetrack. That's why you see the adjustment going in the left rear now. Got to tighten the car up a little bit. Don't want him to get too free. Jimmy down and away.
So that just about cycles everyone around. Ryan Newman has not pitted yet. He's the race leader. We should see him in shortly in this 39 car, and then that'll complete the cycle of pit stops. Now, Kyle Busch lost a lot of ground on the pit lane. We talked about, Andy, you talked about that. Let's show you what happened.
Yeah, just he's trying to turn into his pit stall. You can see Matt Kenseth just coming out of his stall. That was a really good move by Kyle, not to cause an accident, but it cost him a lot of time here. As you can see, it took a good while for them to get back inside the stall to make the stop.
Yeah, it's a lot of time lost on the racetrack in comparison to where he was running.
And as Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson lock up for what now will be the race lead, because Ryan Newman is on the pit lane. Let's see how this turns out.
Johnson lost some time by staying out there and trying to keep the 2-car, Brad Keselowski, from getting that bonus point of leading a lap. Jimmy gave up a little bit of time, able to get back to the lead now by passing Biffle.
He did stay out long enough, though, to force Brad Keselowski to pit 1 lap sooner, and so he did not get that bonus point.
48, 2 back.
So Jimmy Johnson started this cycle of pit stops with a 4-second lead over Kyle Busch. Kyle's now 16 seconds behind in 10th, and it's Greg Biffle who's in the number 2 position, past 50 miles here in Texas. We are deep in the heart of Texas at the Texas Motor Speedway, where Race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is unfolding on a spectacular November afternoon. Kyle Busch with a noteworthy hiccup on pit road in the early going. He and Matt Kenseth tangling, while the top two in the championship, Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski, continue to run well. Johnson leading almost all of the laps so far, while Keselowski runs in the 5th position. Caution-free to this point in the race, and through one cycle of green flag pit stops. These two cars appear to be pretty evenly matched on speed so far.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I'm just watching the lap times as they came off the pit road. Right now, they're almost identical. Looked like Brad was a little bit quicker on the new tires, but I think Jimmy might have been in traffic, so it wasn't a good gauge.
Yep. Conversation that we had before the start of the race about why winning means more. Both Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson have talked about this in the last couple of weeks, and under this scoring system for the championship NASCAR went to for last season, the 1 point per position, the extra points are placed on winning and leading the most laps. So the only way you gain a chunk of points on anyone, if you're running well like Johnson and Keselowski are together, is that gap from first to second, gaining max points by winning and leading the most laps.
Yeah, it makes it very important, because the rest of those spots are just 1 point apiece. It doesn't matter how far up you go. If you're not the winner, you don't get that gap of points.
No, the only other way to gain a point anywhere is by leading a lap. You're obviously not going to get that for the most laps. So it is about winning, and Jimmy Johnson and this team certainly know that better than anyone else.
Look back through the top 5. You saw Johnson, you saw Biffle. Here's the 3rd place runner, Clint Boyer, just ahead of a group of cars, including his 2 teammates, Martin Truex Jr. and Mark Martin, with Brad Keselowski in the mix between them. Truex with that decal on the side of his car, his foundation, looking to raise some money for his home area, Marietta, New Jersey, along the Jersey Shore. And certainly his thoughts throughout the week on many of his family and friends and people he grew up with and so on that suffered such terrible losses in the Superstorm Sandy over the last week.
Yeah, and also, as we pointed out before the race, they're going to donate his winnings today to that cause. So very nice to see him. Again, we're certainly thinking about everyone back on the East Coast, and hope that you can get your life back to normal very soon.
And this certainly a race that Truex could win. These 1.5 tracks, the strength of his team so far this season. Brad Keselowski, for all the talk about average finishes and past performance in Texas and so on, kind of lost in the conversation. He had a top 5 car in the April race here. And remember, this is the first season of the electronic fuel injection systems. This team suffered a couple of hiccups early in the season, coming to grips with that, and this race was one of them. He's qualified well, ran in the lead group for the entire first half of the race, and then had problems under the hood related to adapting to the fueling system, and wound up spending time back in the garage and finished in 36th position, his worst finish of the season. Not indicative of how well he ran to that point.
Yeah, not at all.
Well, he's running well so far, hanging in there in the number 5 spot. But the guy he's chasing for the championship is in the lead. Jimmy Johnson leading all but 2 laps.
Texas Motor Speedway hosting race 34 of our NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season. Meanwhile, coverage of Monday Night Football continues on ESPN. First at 6:30, it's Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. Then at 8:30, with his back against the wall, Michael Vick and the Eagles travel to New Orleans to take on Drew Brees and the Saints team fighting to save their season. Then at halftime, don't miss interviews with President Barack Obama and candidate Mitt Romney. It's Monday Night Football, Philly versus New Orleans, tomorrow, 8:30 on ESPN. 67 laps complete. Brad Keselowski just getting around. Martin Truex Jr. and out front, his closest championship competitor, Jimmy Johnson, leading the way, and that is where we will start as we get up to speed. Doc, what's going on with the 48?
Yeah, our chase points leader was our pole sitter, as you said, Nicole. He has led every lap thus far, and right now Jimmy Johnson is running, and I'm going to quote, a comfortable pace. Why is he running a pace? Because 2 reasons. Chad Chanel said take care of those rear tires. And also remember back to the first race of the chase in Chicagoland, they showed their hand early. He led 172 laps, only to have Brad Keselowski blow by him and win the race. So right now, not show the hand, run the pace early. Jamie.
And Greg Biffle running second, started this race second, and coming into the weekend, he said, I want to take some attention off the 2 and the 48 by winning this race. Well, they brought back the same car they went to victory lane with in the spring, and so far today, it's been pretty good, Vince.
Looking at the 15 of Clint Boyer, currently running third, and he came into this race third in the championship standings. And remember, this team is less than a year old. Brian Patty, been a great combination as crew chief with Clint Boyer. Boyer really leaning on his spotter, Brett Griffin, right now for the fast way around. They're really good in 1 and 2, trying to get better in 3 and 4. Jamie?
Martin Truex Jr. had 2 goals this year, make the chase and win a race. They made the chase and they didn't. He's behind Brad Keselowski and he's moved up to 4th. Brad, though, saying his car is pretty good right now. Happy running the low line. Now, Martin Truex Jr., we talked about him. He's from New Jersey. He wants to win this race, feels like he has the car to win this race, and a winner takes home about $500,000, and that would go to the victims of Hurricane Sandy. Vince?
The 55 of Mark Martin, talking about guys that have put it together. Martin and crew chief Rodney Childers, been a very successful combination. All the cars out of the Michael Waltrip stable have been good. Martin says he started off a little loose on this run, but getting tighter as he moved up. He did not run last week at Martinsville, his last race at Kansas. They led 60 laps. They are getting close to having a breakthrough. Now the 18 of Kyle Busch, it's been eventful for Kyle. He almost collided with Matt Kenseth while coming in on his first pit stop. His car was really good on the first run, but he says it's much more free here in this second stint. They'd like it to get a little bit better. Now the 20 car of Joey Logano. Logano says it's better on this run. Give him double the changes that they made on the first pit stop. Logano only 2 more races after today in this 20 car, and then he'll be going to Team Penske to drive the 22. Dave?
Vince, Jeff Gordon started the day 16th. On that first run, he picked up 5 spots. They made a small adjustment for him, and he's picked up a couple more. Right now, the car is very loose, but it's worse on the top groove than it is on the bottom groove. So to have him look for the low line to make that car drive well for him. Back to you, Vince.
Well, Casey Kane coming into this race. Kane has been one of those drivers that's been red hot in the chase. Before the chase, his average finish was 14th. His average finish in the chase is 7th. You take out that 15th place at Dover, and this guy would be one of the contenders to win the championship. Right now, he says it's just a little bit too loose on exit. Nicole?
Vince, in the 11th spot is Eric Almirola. He's having a very strong couple of weeks. And the 99 car, Carl Edwards, is in 12th, Rusty.
Yeah, the 99 car, Carl Edwards, is a car I've been looking at quite a bit. I mean, here's the guy that tied for the championship last year, but this year has had a really tough year. As we get late in the year right now, he really needs to right the ship and get this team turned around. This particular track here at Texas, guys, in my opinion, is the style of track that he can really get up there and win this race. He's strong. He's running 12th right now, but the car seems like it's getting faster and faster as the run goes on. So Carl's got to stay working on it and end this year on a high note.
Yeah, and I'm watching, the guys up front. Jimmy's obviously dominating this race. Clint Boyer, though, consistently runs one of the 2 or 3 fastest laps on the track, lap after lap. After the last 20 laps, he's been 1 or 2 quick. So if he can just get track position, get himself up near the front, somehow, some way, shape or form, he can go head-to-head with that 48 car, I do believe.
I don't know. I'd say you got to keep your eyes on the 18 car as well of Kyle Busch. He had that bad pit stop, fell from 2nd, back to 10th, but look at him now. He's running 6th.
Yeah, he has certainly a fast car, one of the fastest cars. Unfortunately, any problem in the pits under a green flag stop loses you a lot of time on the racetrack. It not only put him back into 10th, he's driven back up to 6th position, but he's now 10 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson. The other issue that he has is his car's handling differently because it's a little bit back in traffic. They've got to make sure they don't over-adjust that car because it was so good at the beginning of the race in clean air.
He's 10 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson because Jimmy Johnson is really stretching his legs on the field right now. He's led from lap 1. We are 77 laps completed. Is 48 out front with a 4.5-second lead in Texas.
Shadows over turn 1, while turn 3 still in bright sunlight. Part of the riddle of today's race at Texas Motor Speedway as we look down from our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. And as we bring you the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series AAA Texas 500, remind you that you can go to NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy And watch coverage live from Texas today by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. On board, Jimmie Johnson, the race leader. Jimmie about to put Kevin Harvick, the 21st place driver, a lap down. Of course, Johnson reclaiming the championship lead last Sunday at the end of the Martinsville race and was asked what's better, to be the pursuer or the pursuee.
I think there's more pressure on the points leader, but there's more control as the points leader. I just a week ago was sitting there 7 back thinking, okay, if I got 2 a weekend or if I had 3 a weekend, you know, how you play that game. So right now I don't have to think about that. You know, there's the pressure to maintain, but I would much rather be leading the points than be anywhere else.
I agree. I'd take the championship lead over being in second anytime. Speaking of second, Clint Bowyer in the 15 is caught up with Greg Biffle in the 16.
Yeah, Biffle's really struggled. He came back out and didn't officially lead a lap after those green flag stops earlier, but he did come out in front of the 48, but Jimmie was able to get back in front as the 39 stayed out there for a couple laps, but Biffle certainly struggled a little bit more. Bowyer on the move.
And into the runner-up spot for Kansas Clint. Green flag pit stops. Here's Mark Martin, Vince.
Martin's been having a pretty good run today, but he says it's just starting to tighten up a little bit too much. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment for Martin in that 55. 4-tire change in Sunoco fuel down and away. Dave?
Carl Edwards claimed that his car was being tossed around in the rear, and so they're going to make a track bar adjustment for him this time. Get it full of Sunoco fuel. You see the wrench twirling on the right rear of the race car as Carl brings it to pit road.
Watching now, Brad Keselowski close in on Greg Biffle for 3rd place while Joey Logano's in, Vince.
Logano's been running well. He and Jason Ratcliffe starting to hit their rhythm. 4 top 10s in the last 7 races. Another pretty good car today. It's a little too free in and off, so they made an air pressure adjustment with those 4 tires. Dave?
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car still won't turn in the middle of the corner. Steve Lessard saying we're going to make a air pressure change, going to reduce air pressure, take a swing at that. He says I can always put it back. So this might be a major air pressure swing for Junior. Vince?
Casey Kane on pit road. Kane says it's better, but he's still a little bit too free off the turns. So they're going to make a chassis adjustment to help him out there. 4 tires, also an air pressure adjustment for Casey Kane. They've just been trying to get that snugged up. Jamie?
And Kurt Busch in the 78. He's made his way into his pit box. Best qualifying effort he's had since being with this team now. You see the wrench in the back window, track bar adjustment. He's been loose today, but not too bad overall. 4 tires, they filled it up, wiped the grill off. 13.7 bits.
For Matt Kenseth, came into this race having won 2 of the last 4. He says it's just not turning any better on this run. Still too loose in the front, making an air pressure adjustment in the right rear and taking a shim out of the left front. There's that move there. 4 tires and Sunoco fuel for the Kenseth car. Jamie?
Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 just said he needs more front grip, so they're not going to take a huge swing at it this time. They're just going to make an air pressure adjustment, which they already did before they went over the wall. Jack up the right side. Of course, it'll be 4 tires. 4 tires are everything on this racetrack. It has gotten quite rough. They'll fill it up. And no chassis adjustments for Martin Truex Jr. And Tony Stewart, the 14, is in. He sounds like he's having fun out there. The car is getting a little bit tight in the center, but said the longer they go, the better the platform feels. So they made a chassis adjustment, 4 tires. Meanwhile, Brad Keselowski, who came in sideways in his pit box there, 4 tires, said it started to plow just a bit. No big swings at it, though. He's down 13 flat.
Jimmie Johnson not yet having pitted. Here comes Clint Bowyer, giving up 2nd place, Vince.
Boy, he has been so good today. His car has been bad fast, especially down in turns 1 and 2. They really liked it. They made a very slight chassis adjustment on the first stop. No adjustments on this one. Just 4 tires and Sunoco fuel for Clint Bowyer.
And you see Jimmie Johnson hitting a pit lane. 92 consecutive green flag laps of racing on top of the 234 consecutive laps of green flag racing in the April race here. Here's Denny Hamlin in, Doc.
Yeah, loose in, tight middle, tight off, and as Jimmy Johnson goes by Denny Hamlin, they've already changed right side tires on the 11 car. Now go to the left side. Let's check on the 48 pit stop. Jimmy Johnson said the car is starting to work a little bit loose this time. So once again, Chad Knaus trying to stay ahead of the racetrack, ahead of the curve, so to speak, making a minor adjustment, left rear, 4 tires, and Johnson's away.
So again, Ryan Newman out there the longest. And the cycle of pit stops will complete when Newman visits the pit lane, which looks like it's going to happen right here. Newman's second weekend working with his old crew chief, Matt Borland, round 2 together. And he will yield the lead back at the end of the cycle of pit stops to Jimmy Johnson right there. Doc?
Ryan Newman said the car needs to be a tick tighter, so they'll drop the track bar a half a round. Only the second race for Ryan Newman here with Matt Borland, reuniting Matt, who was crew chief for 4 years, and they had 12 wins together. Left side tires going on, getting it full of fuel, and now the 39's away.
So the second round of green flag pit stops completed. Jimmy Johnson now with Brad Keselowski running in second after the exchange of pit stops. 3.8 seconds, the distance from first to second. The top 2 in the championship running 1 and 2. 1 in the wall, scuffing it up, Juan Pablo Montoya. No caution.
We're in defense.
Brad Keselowski got a good look at that one.
Montoya had been up running high. If you enter the corner a little bit too hard there, not a lot of grip up there. It saves you from hitting the wall too hard, but still into it.
Well, 2 rounds of green flag pit stops for the drivers and the pit crews. Not much chance to catch your breath and regroup, and especially under green flag conditions, that work of the pit crews is big. Here's Nick Sutton.
Back up, back up, back it up, over the line, back it up, back it up. All right, there we go. Landon got to the wall a little bit, which tightened us up. We had to back him up over the line right there. All right, still got to finish strong, get it tight right here.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, the chase for the NASCAR Championship continues. Green flag or yellow flag pit stops. Clinton Boyer, upper left portion of your screen. New tire changer on the back end this week. Brandon Hopkins, 4 tire change and a track bar adjustment. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski said the car's pretty good. The tires got angry at him, though. They had a problem. A guy almost went down there.
Johnson, a half around left rear. Once again, Jimmy said the car started to get freer on landing and freer coming up off of that right front tire, digging in. Johnson again, the first one off of pit road.
Strategy play for Brad Keselowski's crew to get him out with the race lead and try and collect a bonus point for the championship.
Yeah, that was a perfect scenario to do that because he had about 6 laps, 7 laps on those tires. He got right side tires. They didn't show it on the graphic there, but he did get right side tires.
Right. So a 2 tire change for Keselowski. They were just on the pit road at lap 91. This was 10 laps later.
Andy and I talked about a scenario if anybody wanted to get 2 tires today, and this was kind of the perfect scenario.
Call that changing plans in midstream. That front tire changer sure looked like he was headed for that left front.
He did. Call it audible.
Just over 150 miles into the race, first caution came out for debris in turn 2 after both Juan Pablo Montoya and Sam Hornish got up and scuffed up along the outside wall, or at least came very close to it. After a round of pit stops that included everyone except Ryan Newman, the race leader. Everybody got 4 tires except the other guy on the front row for this restart, Brad Keselowski. So Newman didn't pit, Keselowski with rights, everybody else on 4. at that driver in the 2.
That's kind of surprised me that he was able to do that on just those right side tires. At least the way he drove away from Jimmy Johnson off of turn 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's what really surprised me. I really expected Johnson to have the lead by the time they got down the back straightaway.
Now can Keselowski get around Newman and pick up that bonus point for leading the lap?
Yeah, that's what he's after right now.
Got a run on him.
No contest.
Yeah, he wasn't going to be denied this time.
I was just going to wait till he got to the start-finish line to make it official. Never know anymore.
This is somewhat similar to what we saw in Chicago with Brad Keselowski and his team working track position and doing some things to get it, and kind of putting Brad at a little bit of a disadvantage tire-wise, but it seems like he's able to get that clean air on those, and it might pay off for him here. I don't know if he can hold Jimmy Johnson off for a whole run. He was able to do that in Chicago.
And I don't know that's the most important thing right now. The thing was, get that bonus point, show what you can do, have a little strategy, get in front of the 48 right now.
Yeah, let him look at your rear bumper. That's right.
Clint Boyer after Ryan Newman. That's 4th place changing hands.
You see just up in front of Boyer, Kyle Busch. That caution was a big break for him after having that trouble on that first green flag pit stop where he lost all of that track position. Now he's back up where he's with the leaders.
And his crew did a terrific job to gain it.
Oh, trouble off 4th.
One in the grass. And back into traffic. And out of harm's way, A.J. Allmendinger.
It ripped the whole front end, splintered the whole lower part of the nose off the grass.
Yeah, it's killed. It's radiator and everything, Nick. Guys are under the garage here.
Second caution coming out. Allmendinger, 28th position, a lap down. And had trouble off of turn number 4. Like he and maybe Carl Edwards got tangled up.
Like he was down on the inside of him. AJ's going to need to shut that off before he messes up the engine any more than maybe it already is.
And the track. I think it's probably got oil coolers busted, radiators, everything else under there. Right there's the marks. You can see where he came off the racetrack. It was really violent. I mean, that thing hit. The nose dug in and just ripped it right off of it.
That's where to watch.
He was down on the inside and trying to stay off. It looked like the car got loose and he was trying to catch it there, but and when he got down into the grass, it just tore the front end off of it.
Right there's where I thought it was going to really go bad with all the traffic coming through that quad oval.
And he will not make it back around to the garage area. And Allmendinger going to climb out. So second caution out. Housekeeping from the first yellow. Sam Hornish got the free pass then. Half a dozen cars took wave arounds to get back onto the lead lap. Trevor Bayne, Casey Mears, Danica Patrick, Jamie McMurray, Bobby Labonte, and Travis Kvapil. And now a split agenda coming to pit road for this caution.
A lot of those wave rounds, it's a big break for them. There was a ton of those cars the last time we went green, and they'll get in here and get new tires.
And it looked like 10th place Mark Martin was the first one to make the break from the line.
And a lot of these not only want more tires, but they want to make some adjustments to these race cars. Obviously not handling to their liking right now.
There's Tony Stewart. Marcus Ambrose there on the pit lane. Sam Hornish. And more. Add Matt Kenseth to the list of guys on the pit lane here. So we went 500 miles of caution-free racing. The end of last April's race, the first 100 laps of this one, now 2 yellows in 10 laps. We are 1/3 of the way into the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, AAA Texas 500. Reminding you to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. And while you're at NASCAR.com, we invite you to check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and watch coverage live from Texas Motor Speedway today by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. The picture now would show you Brad Keselowski and Jimmy Johnson running first and second in this race. Kyle Busch third, and our ESPN in-race reporter Clint Boyer riding fourth.
Clint, Dale Jarrett, you with us?
Yeah, man.
Hey, just wanted to check in with you here early on. See a lot of people struggling with the handling of their race cars. Yours look pretty good, though.
Yeah, so far, seems as though the 48's pretty good. It turns out he's usually that way, but we'll just keep taking. It's a long ways to go. We're just making laps right now. You never know what's going to happen at the end of this thing. Just got to stay in position, keep up with the racetrack. We see a lot of shade here on the front straightaway getting into one. Got to make sure we stay with the track, keep this track position, and see what happens at the end of this thing.
Hey, Clint, we've seen you move around throughout a run. What kind of dictates that? Just the handling of your race car, or just searching for as much grip as you can possibly get?
You know how dirt racers are. We're all over the racetrack looking for grip. I've been on the bottom. It seems like it's moved around where I find the grip. I mean, looked like I was, felt good in the middle, and all of a sudden starts floating the nose, getting tight in the middle. So I moved up a little bit higher, found some speed, got bored with that. So I moved back to the bottom and just kind of having fun right now.
All right, man, you keep having fun. Thanks for talking with us.
Clint Boyer riding in fourth position, our ESPN in-race reporter today. The man heading the pack got there with the help of a little strategy call from his crew chief, who's with Jamie Little.
Yes, he did. So you guys opted. You took an audible, took right sides only. You were able to hold off Jimmy Johnson the first time. Is the car good enough to hold him off a second time?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But so far, the first 100 laps of the race, we felt pretty good about our car. It's just, riding back there fourth and fifth and slowly working our way to the front. And saw this as an opportunity to get the lead and see what we had in the clean air. So chose to do that. And the important thing is to continue to keep up with the track as the temps start cooling down here. We'll need to make sure we keep up with that.
All right, thanks, Paul Wolf. Let's go over to Duck Punch.
Visiting with Chad Knaus, and been a pretty uneventful day for the 48 team. Chad, other than getting a little bit free, I haven't heard Jimmy say much about the car. Pretty pleased so far, it seems.
Yeah, Lowe Chevrolet's running really well today so far. Jimmy's done a great job, and Victor's doing a really solid job. We're a long ways away from the end of this thing, so just staying on top of it and understanding what the racetrack's going to do as we transition into the evening hours, that's going to be key. So right now we're just trying to log some miles and get to the end of this thing.
2 tires, but the 2 cars surprised you at all?
No, nothing really surprises me much anymore.
All right, Chad Knaus. Alan?
Maybe a skydiver hitting the door of your car with a sandbag would surprise you, but not a strategy call for 2 tires. Still cleaning up.
2 cars.
Still cleaning up under the caution. Back at Texas, getting ready for the restart in race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. A little bit past a third of the way into today's 500-miler. Let's take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint network. Jimmy Johnson has led the most laps so far today. By the way, Jimmy Johnson has also turned the fastest speed today. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app. Only from Sprint. Get the app and Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. 186 miles an hour average in race trim.
That's getting it done on this racetrack.
Just added a lap to finish checking the track and making sure they got everything picked up they wanted to with all the oil and oil dry that was put down and whatnot after A.J. Allmendinger's crash off of turn 4 a couple of minutes ago. The Dinger has gone, his car has been towed to the garage. Pit stops, Mark Martin from 10th place was the first in. Mark will restart in 12th position. He was the first one off the pit lane also. And remember that Keselowski still with just those right side tires on the prior caution flag. Johnson with 4. Brad leading the lap, so each of the top two in the championships got the bonus point for leading a lap today. And we'll see who comes out on the drag race on this restart. Here's your race leader.
Yeah, bud, doing great. How about you, bud?
All good. We'll just keep doing our thing here, make sure we keep up for the track.
10-4, you're doing a great job, bro.
Your Lions won.
I saw that. LaShore was having a great game. Ask Ryan about that, how he feels about that.
Lions beating the Jaguars today.
Yeah, this guy's way too uptight to win a championship, isn't he?
Yeah. He's feeling the pressure. All right, here's the restart order as we come to the green flag. And again, Mark Martin all the way back in 12th place is the first one off the pit lane on this particular caution. Let's see if Brad can hold off that 48 that's been the dominant car all day.
Jimmy's going to get a little help from our in-race reporter.
Trouble. Bobby Labonte. And the caution flag is out. Juan Pablo Montoya also smoking heavily at the back of the field.
We're good.
And so the yellow flag just as quickly right back out here in Texas.
You can see the front end tore up on the 42. Now, what may have happened there is that 47 could have laid down in front of him with something wrong, and Montoya may have gotten the back of it.
He really
ton
got
of
the front
damage.
end of that car all torn up, huh?
Hey, you see the back of the 21 tore all to pieces? I don't know if that was triggered by the 47's problem or not. Oh, that made a big mess of that car.
Well, just as quickly we go back under the third caution of the race, and they have a ton of work to do to get that 42 car back in drivable condition.
Oh my! Once again, it's the grass that got Montoya as he tried to dodge. I think he caught
almost that same spot that Allmendinger went off. It's just very abrupt when you get to that grass right off the asphalt.
See things stacking up there with Carl Edwards and the 21 of Trevor Bayne and Bobby Labonte. That's where the smoke came. Bobby Labonte got in the back of the 21. And then Montoya, as he tried to dodge all this just a few rows behind, got into that grass, and that's what tore the front end off of his.
Just a chain reaction. Must have busted the oil cooler on the 47 where we saw the smoke coming from.
Well, that one wasn't as it first appeared. But the end result is 2 cars are back in the garage, Montoya and Labonte. And Trevor Bayne's team's got some work to do on the back end of that 21 car. He's coming to the pit lane under the yellow flag right now.
Under our third caution of the day at Texas Motor Speedway, a quick reminder, as this NASCAR season comes to a close, our own Hannah Storm sits down with some of the biggest names in the sport. Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, and Brad Keselowski, as they reflect on the season and they look ahead to the final races in the chase for the Cup. A SportsCenter special NASCAR face-to-face with Hannah Storm Tuesday at 8 on ESPN. Under the third caution for the day, because of something that happened on this last restart, and this is something that's interesting because of the amount of cautions we're seeing. The first 100 laps, 0. The last 21 laps, 3. They're stacking it up on the restart. And Rusty, you say it's because the front straightaway is incredibly flat here.
Yeah, when I drove here, Nicole, I've always had a lot of problem on restarts. All the drivers do at this particular track. The front straightaway is really flat at the start-finish line. No banking whatsoever. And the drivers really try to anticipate the start. And when that happens, they nail that throttle. Those rear tires go up in smoke. And a lot of these drivers start colliding right at the start-finish line. And we saw that just a little while ago. Now, look, I personally think that late in the race, when the excitement of these drivers really starts to heat up and the intensity comes up, it's going to happen again, Brad.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Rusty. And we saw it some last night in the nationwide race as well as today. You see Brad Keselowski getting woed down there along with Jimmy Johnson. And the field gets bunched up. They spin those tires. We were talking about the camber in the tires, how it drives the car down towards the infield. You see Bobby Labonte there. It looks like he busted his oil cooler. They all got together, got knotted up, and it's just going to get worse as it cools off and it gets later in the day.
And I think as it cools off and gets later in the day, those cars have all that horsepower and they've got trouble hooking it up. But these cautions are doing one thing. They're letting some of the other guys adjust their cars. That 48 car was good when it was green. Some of these other guys are getting a chance to catch up now. As the shadows get longer, I think we could see other guys getting their cars better.
We heard Clint Boyer talk about that earlier when he talked to DJ. Vince is standing by with Brian Patty as well.
Brian Patty's given Clint Boyer a good race car today. Any issues so far today at all?
No, we've made a couple of fine-tune adjustments. We're good on the long run. We just started off a little bit too slow, so hopefully we can work on that toward the end of the race. We're just trying to get to the end there. We're watching the 2 and the 48, and we got good pace. We'll just see what happens.
Thanks, Brian. Jamie?
Well, Chad Johnston up here making all the calls for the 56 and Martin Truex Jr. Good track for you guys. Been running top 5 today. What is he saying about the car right now?
Car's been tight since the beginning. Seems like the track's tightening up, so we're just trying to stay ahead of it as far as with air pressure changes and chassis changes. But all in all, not too bad.
All right, their motto is win, 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 Doc.
Checking in with Matt Borland here for Ryan Newman. Matt, you guys have opted to stay out twice now and gained a ton of track position. How's your race car?
It's been pretty good today. We did a lot of work last night. The guys, Daniel and Billy, really worked hard on the car as far as getting the setup changes, and then Todd and all his guys did a great job changing the car over for today. And so far it's been working, but we'll just have to see at the end.
Wow, from 36 now to 7th. Dave Burns.
This morning, Alan Gustafson and I talked about how this could be a tough race where balance is off all day, guys are adjusting all day, cars are uncomfortable. How comfortable is Jeff right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough day. Our car's, pretty decent. The ARP Driving Hunger Chevy's good. We're pretty good on the short run early, and we felt like we needed to make it better on the long run. I think we've done that, and we're getting a bunch of short runs. So we'll see how it goes. I'd like to get it spread out. And, the air on the nose is a huge deal, and the leaders have a pretty big advantage for a little bit until it gets strung out. But real anxious to see how our car is with it strung out a little bit. We've made some adjustments. I think we've got a little better.
All right, good for Jeff right now. Started 16th, Nicole. He's already up to 8th.
I know, Rusty, you don't like numbers, but here is something to keep in mind. We're under our 3rd caution for the day here. Take a look at what has happened at this track in the last couple times. But here's something else to keep in mind. There were 23 cautions the first 5 races of the chase. We've had 25 cautions in just the last 2. Next weekend, we go to Phoenix. It's the NASCAR Nationwide Series, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday from Phoenix. And then, of course, the Auto Club of Southern California NHRA Finals, qualifying 10:45 Eastern Time, Saturday night. That is on ESPN2. Then next Sunday, it's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series from Phoenix, 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And then Sunday night, the Auto Club of Southern California NHRA Finals, 7 o'clock Eastern that night. As always, we invite you to join our conversation in the pit studio on Twitter at NASCAR ESPN. Use the hashtag pit studio, and we asked you earlier to tweet us your seats, whether you are here at the track enjoying the race.
Yeah, good spot.
Or, I'll check that one out.
Well, the boys doing a little yoga down there, huh?
At the track or at home, we want to know from where and from how you are watching the race today. 124 laps complete. Like we said, under caution for the 3rd time at Texas. Jimmie Johnson still out front.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, AAA Texas 500. Field getting the 1 to go signal now after a race that ran almost its opening 3rd without a caution flag, and now has had 3, and a couple of them really long ones in this last little bit. They're doubled up to go back racing. Championship leader and race leader Jimmie Johnson has chosen the outside lane. NASCAR going back and through its scoring loops, seeing that the 48 was ahead of the 2 at the time of the caution flag. So Jimmie in control of the restart. Brad Keselowski finds himself running 2nd.
It's like a circus out here. Yeah. Well, lots of green and then a long yellow. Kind of weird.
I'd call it a halftime break, but we're only about a 1/3 of the way into the race.
Yeah, just a break.
Yeah. Matter of fact, in just a few more laps, we'll hit 200 miles of the 500 in today's race. So, big picture, if you're just joining us, Jimmie Johnson has dominated. He's led 107 of the 127 laps. Brad Keselowski's team made a right side tires only pit stop call at lap 101. Got him the lead, so they are even on bonus points in the championship today. Kyle Busch in that 18 has come back from an almost collision on pit road on a green flag stop that cost him a lot of time. He's running in 3rd, and Clint Boyer started 4th. He's running 4th as the pace car hits pit road, and we get set to finally go back green flag racing. Let's see how long we do. As you can see, that's a lot of the oil dry that was put down from a couple of these cautions, kicking up the smoke. Nothing coming out of the 2-car.
Well, you can see, though, it was making his car loose as he went through turns 1 and 2 and the exit of turn 2.
Fourth place here, Truex 56, Kyle Busch 18, with Ryan Newman right behind him. It was earlier back at lap 43 when Kyle Busch, coming into his pit stall on a green flag stop, almost collided with Matt Kenseth, who was exiting his. Kyle was running second at the time. It dropped him 10 seconds behind the race leader. And he's clawed all the way back now to be in fourth place. As you watch these drivers and teams, Carl Edwards here, Aric Almirola racing for 15th and 16th here. In all those interviews we did under those 2 extended cautions, we heard the words keep up with the track and transitions about what, a dozen times?
Yeah, this track is definitely gaining grip as it cools off. I was just looking at these lap times. Jimmy Johnson ran really close to his fastest lap of the race on the last lap, and Keselowski ran his fastest lap of the race.
Kasey Kahne by Ryan Newman to pick up 7th spot. 5-car we thought might be a factor in this one. I know there's a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think that what we've seen in the past is that Kasey Kahne and Kenny Francis kind of get their car ready for the end of these races, and that's when they come on. We kept expecting a lot of that at Charlotte and at Kansas, and didn't really happen, so we haven't seen them be able to do that. They'd certainly need to step it up here at the end of this one.
Certainly that transition will get its most critical at sunset, which is 5:35 local time, 6:35 in the east. And this race will finish under the lights with the track completely in the dark and the temperature the coolest it'll have been all race. Maybe all weekend as far as time than the cars were actually on the track, for that matter.
Yeah, and I really believe at that time when you make pit stops then, if your car isn't exactly right, you have to make kind of a big swing at it. I don't know that you can just make small steps and keep up with it.
One thing that happens while these drivers race from the late afternoon into dusk is a little bit of sun glare.
Can't see anything off of turn 4 right now. Windshield's covered. Yeah, turn 4 looks real bad. Do the best you can there.
Yeah, one of the things complicating that is all that speedy drive from that first lap after the restart gets all on these windshields. I'm not seeing it from this because we can clear that lens, but the windshields have probably got a lot of that debris or a speedy dry on it. Makes that glare even 10 times worse.
Yeah, and a really difficult part of the racetrack because it's right where you're coming off. You don't ever give yourself very much room up against the wall and making a perfect lap around here, so it makes it difficult on these drivers for just a little while longer.
Jeff Gordon running in 6th there. Here's Greg Biffle trying to dig back toward the front. Biffle up contending for 2nd, 3rd place, trying to chase down leader Jimmy Johnson. Earlier at one point was side by side with him off a set of green flag pit stops, but never has actually led a lap. And now the Biff back in 9th place. They had a little miscommunication on a pit stop a little while ago. He started to go after just 2 tires when they were going to change 4, and it cost him a little bit of time. Marcos Ambrose on the move as well in the 9-car, new crew chief this week for that team. Drew Blickensderfer moving over from Richard Childress Racing, where he was partnered with Jeff Burton, to head up this 9 effort, replacing Mike Ford.
Probably one of the better efforts we've seen on the ovals from this 9-car in quite a while, really. Ambrose really enjoys these type of racetracks, and we expect to see him perform pretty well. Day one of their best so far, Doc.
Absolutely. You know how important it is for a driver to have a good attitude. When the garage area this morning, Marcos Ambrose walking around with a smile on his face saying, guys, it's a new day, a new crew chief. I love the positive attitude we've got here in this team. And Marcos having a pretty good run, although having his hands full right there coming up off the corner. He said the car is free up off if you couldn't tell, guys.
Yeah. At least they know his information's correct.
There is Drew Blickensderfer. Of course, Drew spent quite some time in the Roush Fenway organization, where this team gets its technical support from, its cars and its engines, so he's very familiar with the Roush Fenway system and way of doing things.
Yeah, he had a lot of success with David Reagan with these Fords. See, Ambrose really with his hands full right now, but look for Drew to make a difference in this race team as he gets a little more time with them.
Shane Wilson replacing Blickensderfer with Jeff Burton, who, by the way, got the free pass at the last caution, and Burton is back on the lead lap in 24th place. Denny Hamlin trying to move back toward the front and up into contention. Hamlin, a two-time winner of this race. Haven't seen him right up at the front yet, contending for the lead at all in this race so far.
No, and it was interesting. I think all of us looking to see how they would rebound after that disappointment of last weekend of having a fast race car, a failure with it, taking them pretty much out of any chance of winning the championship. So how do they rebound from that and shows kind of what you have as a team and driver in the effort to make?
Yeah, that can still knocks the wind out of you. You have something like that, have a good run going like they did, and now they're basically out of the championship. So it can really take a lot out of you as a team.
Denny said here Friday, shame we can't be a part of it, but we'll just try to work our way as high up in the points as we can and go out there and enjoy the championship battle that's unfolded. We are past the 200-mile mark. Today here at Texas Motor Speedway, race 8 of 10 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, and the top 2 in the championship. Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski are running first and second in this race. Sounds like a storyline we ran with a lot at the end of last season with Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards when they had that classic fight for the championship. Maybe seeing part 2 here. Let's check in on our top 10 runners in the race. We go up to speed, starting with Dr. Jerry Punch.
As you might expect, Alan, Jimmy Johnson's pretty much had a pretty uneventful day. Car getting a little bit free on entry. They've made slight adjustments on the left rear on every stop. But a moment ago, Jimmy said, you know what? Starting to get a little snug in the middle, leaning on that right front. And for the first time today, Chad Canal said you might want to start exploring some different lines like some of the others are. Jamie.
And Brad Keselowski been very comfortable behind the wheel, nice and loose, having a good time on the radio with his team. Now he's saying how tough it is to see. We touched on the glare, but the bugs are a big issue. He said we definitely need a tear off on the next stop, Vince.
Running in third is Clint Boyer, and Brian Patty, the crew chief, brought one of his favorite cars here. He says it runs well everywhere. It won the race in Charlotte. They've been good off the truck here this weekend. Very minor adjustments on the 15, and the biggest issue for Clint right now is the fact that sun is in his eyes as he comes off turn 4. He says it's really a handful. As far as the 18 is concerned, that's Kyle Busch, another good run. They missed the chase, of course. They had that wreck at Kansas and the motor failure at New Hampshire, but otherwise they have been so good during the chase. Kyle is solid again today, although right now says there's a little too much rotation in the center. Jamie?
And Martin Truex Jr. behind him, only chaser who hasn't scored a bonus point in this chase. Right now, they're all about getting up front, leading laps, and getting a win this year. He's been top 5 today, but not good enough to lead a lap yet, Dave.
Jeff Gordon's crew chief told me this morning that for the amount of complaints he was getting, the car was really pretty fast. So far, recently, Jeff's only complaint has been his vision. Keep in mind, he was one of the guys that pitted on lap 101 last, so he'll be coming a little bit earlier than a lot of the field. Vince?
The 5 of Casey Kane, one of those cars out of the Hendrick stable, running 7th. They've been searching most of the weekend for that happy medium between loose and tight, but right now Casey says the car's not bad, but the glare is unbearable. He says, I can't see a thing. The 22-year-old Joey Logano running in 8th place in the 20 car, the youngest winner in the Sprint Cup Series this season. He's got a car that's been top 10 most of the day today, says it's pretty good, a little tight in the center. And again, like many others, the vision is a bear. Jamie?
And Greg Biffle has gained 1 spot on track since the last caution flag. His car's just been okay. In practice, he was able to run high, able to run low. So far today, just can't get up as high as he wants to. The car has been better on the bottom and moving up toward the middle. He, too, screaming that he can't see. They're going to pit in about 18 laps, Doc.
And behind them, the 9 car, Marcos Ambrose, who's an accomplished road racer. He won at Watkins Glen back in August. Now, we know he knows how to turn right. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have to turn right on a 1.5-mile oval, but he's doing a lot of that right there, just hanging onto the race car. He was free in, they made an air pressure change, and now he's free in and free off. Behind him, we talked about how a $35 Master switch a week ago produced a 33rd place finish for that man right there. Denny Hamlin thought he had a chance at a championship, and now before the race, Denny said this day in these final 3 races, all about gaining respect back, running and trying to win races. Vince.
The 55 of Mark Martin's been fighting a little bit of tightness throughout much of this race so far, and right now says just a tick snug still, but getting a little bit better as they run. Martin was 3rd here in April, trying to make it a couple of spots better this time around. Doc?
Back behind him, what a run today for Ryan Newman. New crew chief Matt Berlin opting to keep him on the racetrack and gain track position. They started back in 36th position. They were running up as high as 7th. Now back to 13th because Matt said we've lost, Ryan said we've lost overall grip and we are way very tight off throttle.
Kevin Harvick's, hey Doc, Kevin Harvick's crew always knows where he stands because he's very blunt in describing his race car. It was horrible earlier. It is good now. Kevin's driven his way up into the top 15 and no changes on the last pit stop. Alan?
All right, Dave, thanks. Race for 5th here. Jeff Gordon trying to find some running room underneath Martin Truex Jr.
See, he tried to stay down just that half car width, get some air on the nose. Truex has been kind of in Gordon's groove as to where he really wanted to go. Now Truex just kind of pulls over, lets him go at this point in time, realizing that Gordon's a little faster at this stage of the race.
We heard Alan Gustin say he was kind of waiting for this pack to kind of string out and see what they have. He thought they were going to be pretty good if they could run a few laps and get some clean air on the nose. Looks like Jeff's car is pretty good right now.
Top 5. 5 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson, the man who's dominated this race so far. Jimmy has led all but 19 of the 152 laps we've run so far. See that Ryan Newman has gained the most positions in the race. That strategy detailed in our Up to Speed just a minute ago. And again, caution free for the first 100 laps and then 3 quick caution in succession. Now back on what appears to be another long green flag run. Time to go NASCAR Nonstop, presented today by Nationwide Insurance. Change for 6th place there. Casey Kane moving up as Martin Truex Jr. slides back a couple of spots toward the end of this green flag run. It is still Jimmy Johnson continuing to lead. Brad Keselowski running 2nd, 2.4 seconds behind the race leader. Clint Bowyer's running 3rd, and he is 4.4 seconds back. Top 3 in the championship in the top 3 positions right now. It's quite the storyline as we head into these final 2.5 races of this season. The 5-time champ being challenged by the young upstart, Brad Keselowski, from a racing family with a well-known name in motorsports circles, driving, of course, for Roger Penske, and Keselowski not yielding any ground to the 5-time championship winner. Jimmy Johnson keeps throwing body blows here, winning at Martinsville, winning pole positions, and Keselowski's just kind of standing right there and saying, it's good. We're right here.
Yeah, he's doing a good job this run, too. He's got tires that are a few laps older on the left side, but he's able to keep pace pretty well with Jimmy now that it's kind of stretched out.
3rd place cars in, Vince.
Yeah, the issue for Clint Bowyer, he said he thought he had a tire going down, so they brought him in, didn't want to take any chances at all, gave him a clean tear off as well. It's been a big issue. Sunoco fuel, and off he goes, but a tough break for Bowyer.
Well, see if this thing stays green and cycles through the whole run of stops.
Yeah, we saw him up battling Brad Keselowski for 2nd. Looked like he was actually going to maybe take that spot, and then he fell back about a 2nd behind Bowyer. So he may have had a problem there and have to get in there and see if they can take care of that. 56 in too, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's some debris out there because you heard Clint Bowyer thought he had a flat. Well, the 56, Martin Truex said, I'm coming now, I have a flat. So something going on out on the track, 4 tires, but he desperately, too, wanted to tear off on that windshield, screaming that he couldn't see anything coming off of 4.
And that is going to open the floodgates on the pit stops as Juan Pablo Montoya comes out of the garage and back onto the racetrack. Jeff Gordon, Greg Biffle, Marcos Ambrose, and Eric Almirola all on the pit lane. Dave?
He's made, Jeff Gordon on your left there has made up so many positions under this long run. You heard his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, talk about it. The car really pretty well balanced for him right now. Just a slight air pressure adjustment, and it'll be a wedge adjustment in the left rear as well. Jamie?
And Greg Biffle's in his pit box. 4 tires, fuel, 1 round in the left rear, a wedge, and he's gone.
And Marcos Ambrose free in and free off. Air pressure out of the left rear, and he will battle the 16 off of pit road. Vince.
The 5 car of Casey Kane says the track is starting to free up as the sun goes down. Kane getting a 4-tire change, Sunoco fuel, and a tear-off as well. Dave?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. complaining that his car is really tight in the middle of the corner, has no front grip. You see the wedge wrench going in the rear of the car. They'll make that adjustment. 4 fresh tires, more Sunoco fuel to get him on his way. Carl Edwards also on pit road at this time.
Joey Logano on pit road as well. Logano says he's starting to get tight in the center, but it's loose in and loose off. Air pressure adjustment, 4 tires for the 20 of Logano.
Brad Keselowski going to come to the pit lane here at lap 165. Too shy of halfway from second place. He heads to the number 2 team, Jamie.
And the only changes they've made on this race car today is track bar adjustment. That's what they're doing again. You saw it right there. It'll be 4 tires, fill them up, and he will have a clear view out of the front.
12.6 there on the 2 team, and Jimmy Johnson a lap later is going to give up the lead and come to the pit lane. He's all the way down the far end of pit road and headed toward Doc.
And Jimmy Johnson said, guys, in the middle of the corner, when I pull on the wheel, the car rolls to the right, it leans over, and suddenly I get loose coming up off on throttle. Chad Canal says, we got a fix for that, and the fix is that big black handle you see in the right rear. 1 full round on the chassis, right side tires, left side tires. Important to get it completely full of Sunoco fuel. Lug nuts on, checking the left rear. He is away. Now Denny Hamlin will also come off pit road to make his stop. Hamlin said very, very, very tight in the middle of the corner. He's also away. Vince.
The 18 of Kyle Busch having a good day today. He saw that wrench in the right side. They made a chassis adjustment. He says also needs a tear off to help with the vision. Wants a bottle of water. Car is a little bit too loose, so they snugged it up. Dave?
Just a little bit tight right now for Kevin Harvick. Slight air pressure adjustment for that. He will get a couple of cans of fuel. Remember, he's raced his way into the top 15 now. Under green flag conditions, giving up his track position for the 4 fresh tires and fuel.
Matt Kenseth going to give up the lead here to come to the pit lane. Been kind of a struggling day for this 17, Vince.
It has indeed. He got caught up in that chain reaction accident, had some damage to the left rear. Hasn't hindered them too much. Chassis adjustment on the pit stop here. He says the corner speeds are pretty good, but he just needs more grip. Jimmy Fennick making the changes to try to give Kenseth just what he needs.
Still have 3 more cars to complete the cycle of stops. Remember, we've got some people on a little bit different pit stop schedules because of those 3 rapid-fire cautions. Trevor Bayne, Travis Kvapil, Danica Patrick are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at the moment. Then you'll get back to Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski, 4th and 5th. And there is the race leader, Trevor Bayne. Band-aids and all on the nose of that car and the tail of it after that Wood Brothers machine banged up in the restart scrum back at lap 119. There's Danica Patrick. Jamie, lead lap until this stop.
That's right, making her first start with Tony Gibson as the crew chief. Entirely brand new team for her. Been holding her own, listening to the feedback. They're communicating quite well together, getting some laps. Again, it's her first start in the Cup Series. Raced nationwide last night, finished 2nd in the IndyCar Series in 2010. It's a good stop for Danica. She's down.
All right, Patrick out and away. And Trevor Bayne still out on the racetrack on those older tires. And that is Is that Quapple right behind him, or is that the 83? The two cars painted up identically. That is Travis. So that's first and second. That's the race for the lead here until those two hit the pit lane.
Yeah, Trevor Bain extremely loose off of turn 4 there as Carl Edwards had gone to the inside of him and made a pass.
And now here's the race for the lead. Once those two finish the cycle, Brad Keselowski gaining some ground on Jimmy Johnson in that exchange of pit stops.
Looks like they had about a 2 or 3 second quicker pit stop, and it really shows up on the racetrack under green here. Maybe almost 2.5 seconds quicker than Johnson's team.
Brad was 3.7 seconds behind Johnson going to the pit lane. Afterwards was just 1.1 seconds behind. Trevor Bain to the pit lane. Travis Quapple now the leader. As soon as Quapple stops, it goes back to those two. And there is Quapple down in the apron heading to the pit road right now. So Keselowski trimmed a little bit, a couple seconds off the Johnson lead on the exchange of pit stops, and we're across halfway. In today's AAA Texas 500, we go NASCAR nonstop. Presented by Nationwide Insurance.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Sylvania Silver Star Ultra Headlights. Remember, headlights dim over time, replace before burnout. And the new 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost.
Race number 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is turning into another head-to-head fight between the top two in the championship. Jimmy Johnson took over the point lead at Martinsville last Sunday, has led the most laps and is in the race lead. In this one, Brad Keselowski started in the number 8 position, and he's running in second spot. As you look down on our aerial coverage today, provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. So a couple things to follow up on from these pit stops. Jamie, I take it Brad Keselowski's seeing out that windshield a whole lot better now.
Absolutely. And Alan, you heard a lot of us talking about tear-offs. Well, this is a tear-off that came off of Brad Keselowski's car. Dirt, oil, bugs, you name it, it was on there. Basically, it's just a plastic sticky material, and he started the race with 5, and now NASCAR is allowing that 7th man over the wall to rip it right off. But thankfully, they have multiple. Alan?
It's not as simple as hitting the old windshield washer thing in the car.
No, those don't work too well, unfortunately. And you could magnify that by putting it up in the sunlight. Yeah. It would show you even more just how difficult it was for these drivers.
So a lot clearer view of Jimmy Johnson's back bumper at the moment for Brad Keselowski. And Clint Boyer making the early move onto pit road from 3rd place under this cycle of stops. He's dropped back to 5th now, Vince, but I guess it could have been a whole lot worse.
It could have indeed, Alan. He was the first one on pit road, remember, because he thought he had a tire going down. Take a look at the wear on this tire. Boyer did indeed have an issue with that right front, so they did get it in time. He wouldn't have been out there much longer in one piece. So a great way to feel it for Clint Boyer. Great job for the team. Get him in right away, make those changes. And as you said, Boyer, that could have been a bad break in a number of different ways, but right now still in the top 5.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's what we're talking about, balance, keeping the car balanced. It helps use all 4 tires efficiently. If you've got that car just a little bit tight, this is one of those tracks that has a lot of tire wear, and it's a lot of character, like we said, and it can really work it can overwork one of those tires like we saw there.
And I'm sure that maybe they're planning on this racetrack freeing up some, getting a little bit looser. But you also have a responsibility as a driver. He was right up there on those restarts, working really hard, I think, to try to put some pressure on Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski. Probably ran it a little harder than what he had been in the previous runs.
Little radio traffic going back and forth on NASCAR's race control channel about a possible piece of debris in turn 1, but apparently it has been knocked down below that white line and out of harm's way where any of the race cars are concerned. Getting a look here at that. Oh, there is the caution for the debris. Maybe it wasn't knocked down out of that racing area.
Yeah, and even if it gets on the apron, it's still in play, so to speak, because you have to make pit stops, and you don't want the drivers running over that as they exit.
Yeah, and you can't have a race car hitting it and tossing it up in the air and so on. So caution flag out. Fourth one of the race. Debris in turn 1. And everyone will have a chance to regroup here just about 20 laps after they were on pit road under the green. Chance for some of those 2-tire stops again, Mr. Petrie?
I don't think so. I really think that you're going to see all these cars take 4 tires because there's so much to be gained with new tires now here. This track, well, we kind of compared it to Atlanta, and it's just a no-brainer really to get 4 tires unless you've got less than 10 laps on the tires, and right now we've got more than that, so I expect all of them change forward.
Probably time for some adjustments to start too, as we were showing there how much of this track is now starting to get in a shade condition, and you're going to get more grip in areas, and I'd probably start trying to stay up with the track at this point in time.
Jeff Gordon's team getting ready. 24 cars moved up into 3rd place. Chad Knaus always working the calculations, as is Paul Wolf. Communicating out to his driver and team. So yellow flag number 4. Only had 2 yellows in the April race here. Had 5 in the 2 prior races in Texas before that. And a long green flag run to the finish. We've still got 147 laps to go. So these teams have to be mindful of that, and fuel windows and all the rest. Johnson, Keselowski, Gordon, Kyle Busch, Boyer, Truex, Kane, Biffle, Logano, and Ambrose, the top 10, and here they are, Vince.
Well, Kyle Busch in the 18, at some points in the corner it's too loose, and some points it's too tight. So they're going to make an air pressure adjustment and a wedge adjustment trying to help Kyle's handling with 4 tires. Dave?
3rd place, Gordon, bottom left, a little bit tight 1 and 2, but really free through 3 and 4. They'll put a half round of wedge in the left rear. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski says he's a pinch tight, but we're better than him, meaning the 48. Go back on that adjustment, up on the track bar, Doc.
Jimmy Johnson free off 1 round in the left rear. No 2 tires here. Chad Knaus says we're putting 4 on this baby, and Chad is down and will be the first car off of pit road.
And the second car off the pit lane is going to be Kyle Busch.
I tell you, that 18 team just gets it done down there.
By winning the pole, Jimmy Johnson's team selecting that first pit stall and gains the advantage of just having to roll a little bit to nip that scoring line and keep Kyle Busch behind him on the restart. So caution out for debris in turn 1. Jimmy Johnson continuing to dominate the laps led category in this race. Nobody wants to finish second here at Texas Motor Speedway as we get set to go back racing. Now second to Jimmy Johnson. The race leader is Kyle Busch. Brad Keselowski will be lined up behind Kyle for the restart.
Did you anywhere near Kyle's spotter there? Was that Hirschman? No, sir. Well, why don't you ask him if he's okay if I give him a little push here on this restart? Yeah, 10-4.
Let's see if it happens.
Like Kyle didn't need a push.
And now for second place, Keselowski to the inside of Johnson. And besides on the exchange of green flag pit stops, that's about as far back as Jimmy Johnson's been off the lead this entire race. So new leader Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski second, Jimmy Johnson third, Martin Truex fourth, and there's Jeff Gordon up into fifth with Clint Boyer right behind him, and Casey, that is Casey Kane. Kane and Biffle there joining the party. That was called announcer's sun glare for a minute. Those 2 cars with the red stripes up the side and the white.
We need to pull a tear off up here.
Yeah.
You see from that shot just how bad that glare is coming off forward. Kyle Busch now has recovered from that green flag stop he made when he actually came out of his pit box. had to back up and lost a lot of track position and a lot of time, and he's finally made it back up now. See what kind of car he's got.
I was all the way back at lap 43. Kyle running second at the time, came to the pit lane under green as he was trying to turn left into his pit box. Matt Kenseth was turning right out of his. Nice job by Kyle to avoid collision, but he fell 10 seconds off the race lead. Now he's in the race lead as Jeff Gordon goes by Truex for fourth.
It's like a Jeff Gordon I've seen before.
Yeah, and he just passed him wherever he has to, wherever the room is, that clean air. He passed on the bottom to get by Clint Boyer, went around the outside of Martin Truex.
Pretty good right here. Already got
Gordon, Dave.
And they had to give him a little encouragement after that pit stop. He lost 2 spots on pit road. Yeah, the guys ahead of him had a good stop, but Alan Gustafson said, we bobbled. We shouldn't beat those guys.
Led a lot of this race with Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski, who was needing to gain some points in and out of here.
It's also probably got a concern a little bit, if not the driver, because he probably doesn't know the whole extent, but Vince, the pit crew, to have seen that right front tire a bit ago.
That's exactly right, Alan, but it was a good catch. I think what Clint is more concerned about at this point is the fact that his car just isn't handling the way it's been handling. As you see Keselowski trying to make the move underneath. Now it's going to be Kyle Busch fighting him back. Alan.
All right, Vince, 15 team will certainly be keeping an eye on it, and Clint will be probably hypersensitive to it. And right now, Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski trying to put a little gap on Jimmy Johnson.
Nice work, Kyle. Damn guy's good. Yeah, one day he'll win some races.
I don't know how Keselowski closed on him so quickly. Maybe Kyle was trying something a little different, and just what didn't work for him. Looks like he's back going again good now, though.
Here's 7th place, Biffle, 16, Truex, 56.
Truex starting to slide back a little bit on this run. Casey Kane's already gotten by him also.
Greg Biffle at 1 point up in the top 3 in this race. Slipped back a little bit on a pit stop miscommunication earlier. And they really haven't had the car to drive through and make up the track position since.
Well, this track's going through a transition phase right now. You can see these shadows have been pretty well covered in turns 1 in the front straightaway, but it's starting to creep over into turn 4 and more of turn 2. So the track's definitely cooling off and changing.
And of course, as the sun sets, we'll expect to see the fastest lap times of the race in the very late going in the race if we bring up our Sony's James Bond telemetry into the final laps. It's become part of a driver's routine anymore, working those switches.
A lot going on in there. That used to be a time that you could just kind of relax down the straightaways. Now they've got a lot to think about, a lot to do going on in there besides handling these cars through the corners.
See, 190 miles an hour getting in the corner. This is on worn tires.
So Kyle Busch putting a little gap now on Keselowski, who's got a similar advantage on Jimmy Johnson, who's got a similar gap to Jeff Gordon, who's got a similar gap back to Clint Boyer. So Vince, we were saying about Clint Boyer when things got exciting up front there.
My comment was going to be the fact that I think they are most concerned at this point with how the track is changing. And I know you guys upstairs have talked about that. And alerted the viewers that that's something the teams are going to have to do, keep up with the changing conditions. And that's what the 15 is fighting a little bit right now. As Clint says, the car is more free in than it's been throughout the course of the day, and he doesn't have that rear grip that he had earlier. So the track conditions starting to change, the handling starting to change, and these teams got to keep up with it, or we're going to see the position on track change as well.
It looks like they've got a pretty good handle on things right now. You see down in the corners something interesting here. Boyer trying to kind of straddling that seam that's there. There's no lines in the corners to go by as to exactly where you are. You use those seams. You don't want to really get your tires on them. You can cut across them. But very interesting to watch Clint Boyer that's what he's doing is that one seam that he continues to straddle. He's kind of in between them here. Now he'll cut across down in 1 and 2. But up in 3 and 4, he really straddles that and uses that as his guideline.
And I always appreciate Clint Boyer providing our drink straw accelerometer with the onboard view. That big straw he has hanging out of his drink bottle. And still that glare off of turn number 4. Clint Boyer running 5th. While Kyle Busch has moved to the top of the board. Jimmy Johnson has dominated the race so far, but now it's Kyle Busch who's in the lead.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, 211 laps complete with Kyle Busch in the 18 out front. If you are just joining us, here are a couple of things we've been following. Number 1 and number 2 in the points, Brad Keselowski versus Jimmy Johnson. The cream rises, and they have definitely been out front today a lot.
Yeah, the 2 and 48 have absolutely been nip and tuck all day long. Jimmy Johnson's been dominant, leading 164 of the first 211 laps we've run. Brad Keselowski's been very, very consistent. He's keeping that 48 car in his sights. Been quicker at times.
Tires, we're seeing wear become a concern.
Yeah, and you know, as the race goes on, we said as the cars got quicker and they ran harder that the right front tire could be an issue. You know, how you take care of that tire early in the run could dictate how you end up.
Track conditions are also changing, dealing with the sun going down, but that's just the beginning.
Yeah, that is the beginning of it. This is something, these drivers have just been logging laps right now, Nicole, just trying to get their car later on in the race where it's going to get dark, and that's where the true handling is going to happen. I will promise you from past experience, these cars will change quite a bit, and the changing track conditions is what can separate Brad Keselowski and Jimmy Johnson if both these drivers don't keep up with the track. That will be the biggest single change what's going on right now.
That's the 5-Hour Energy Rapid Recap. Crew Chief down there on the end, what do you think will be the biggest thing to happen once these changes happen?
Well, I agree. I still think that there's some guys sitting in the pack that you've got to watch. Casey Kane and those guys have been good when the lights come on. You know, it does not take that much of an adjustment. We saw Clint Boyer get off just a little bit and drop back. Now he seems to have his car going well. Jeff Gordon has always been a guy that's run good when the lights have come on and the shades have gotten longer. It looks like he's picked up speed in his car as well.
Alan?
All right, Nicole, just watching a couple of interesting things here on the racetrack a little further back in the pack as Martin Truex Jr. goes around Juan Pablo Montoya. One of the things we watched was Denny Hamlin have a really close call with Ryan Newman coming off a corner a second ago. Unmentioned by me, and I'll apologize for this, at the last caution flag, Jamie McMurray got back on the lead lap with a free pass. So McMurray back in the hunt, and Brad Keselowski, DJ, you mentioned this a second ago to us off air, has found something, because all of a sudden he's closing in on Kyle Busch a little bit.
Yeah, really watching him search around on this racetrack right now, even though it's going to continue to change. But it seems like every couple of laps, if he doesn't get exactly what he wants, then he changes that and tries something a little bit different. And it may be two totally different things at each end of the racetrack. He's making it work.
Matt Kenseth, left screen earlier in the race, dropped quite a bit off the start at the green flag. He was in 10th position, and he lost about 8 spots like that, like snap of a finger, and has not really made much progress until lately. And all of a sudden, as the conditions change, this 17 car is coming alive.
Yeah, you come to Texas, you expect Matt Kenseth to really be good, and when he dropped back at the beginning, I'm thinking, well, maybe this is not going to be one of those, but maybe they have set this car up knowing what this track's going to do and kind of suffering through the beginning part of the race. And like I said, this track did go through a transition. It looks like he's a lot better.
So Kenseth creeping back toward the top 10 after, like I said, falling from 10th position at the start. So Kyle Busch has now led more consecutive laps in this race than anybody else besides Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy dominated the opening stretch and in fact has clinched the bonus points for leading the most laps, but now it is Kyle who's out in front.
You got a small piece of debris on your grill, nothing big, just keep an eye on your water temp for me.
Dave Rogers there from the pit box to the cockpit.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it should be a problem, but he did want to at least alert him so he can look at the gauges from time to time.
Kyle Busch talking the other day asked about, I mean, everybody's noticed how well they've run in the chase in this 18 car. And he was asked if he'd thought about, you know, the disappointment at Richmond and where they might be. And he said, well, actually, we've kind of run the numbers and we'd still be 6th or 7th because we've had a couple of races where we've had hiccups. You see how well they've run in the chase. 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s after missing that wild card spot by 1 single point. But Kyle says, we still wouldn't be in contention for the championship because of those couple of races where we've had some problems.
Yeah, realizing they still have some work to do. It looks like they may have a little work to do here tonight too still. Car starting to slide around. You can see Kyle has changed his line a little bit, trying to find a little bit more grip, but he's got a mirror full of Brad Keselowski right now.
Just got a big loose right there. Get loose.
You can see, I think he has found something up in that top groove. It just gives him a little bit of momentum. I saw Jimmy Johnson playing around with that too. I mean, everybody seems to be searching around looking for something better as this track does change.
A big run there into the corner, down on the very bottom. Don't know if he'll be able to sustain this off the corners. Kyle goes back by, but you can see just how fast that was. And Brad's been messing around a lot down the bottom of 1 and 2, where it's pretty much completely in the shade, making a lot of speed down there. Up to the top here in 3 and 4, see if he can get a good run off of here.
Is there some way you can give those of us who've never driven these race cars on these tracks like this an idea of what this is like, knowing these transitions in the track are coming, and at least until you get to the next pit stop as Keselowski tries it again, you've got to work with what you've got in that race car.
Yeah, you have to work with that, but what you're doing right now is you're saying, okay, this is what the racetrack is going through down here in 1 and 2. We'll have to anticipate that a lot of the same things are going to happen in 3 and 4, even though turn 3 is going to be the last to get any shade here. Have caution on the track.
Debris in turn number 3. And the caution's going to wave for the 5th time in this race. And now you completely change modes behind the wheel, right? Give the crew chief his feedback. Get ready for the next set of circumstances.
Pretty good right there.
Yeah,
it's a matter of getting the
fuel
lead.
mileage run here. About 110 laps to go when they make this stop, which is split up 55 and 55.
Probably the worst run for this 48 team. See Chad there contemplating exactly what he's going to do to help his driver Jimmy Johnson out this next run.
Keeping up with the conditions. Jimmy has led 164 laps of the 223 that have been run. He's again clinched the bonus point for leading the most laps, but finds himself back in 3rd as they come to the opening of pit road. And the crews again get set to go back to work. It's Busch, Keselowski, Johnson, Gordon, and Boyer, the top 5, Vince.
Kyle Busch wants some help on entry and exit. The car's just a little bit too free, wants a tear off as well. They're going to make a chassis adjustment, air pressure, and 4 tires for Kyle Busch. Dave?
Just a little loose in and off, a little tight in the middle, slight air pressure adjustment. We'll see if the 24 team can hold or improve their track position this time. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski said, we're pretty good. I wouldn't touch it, Paul. 4 tires and fuel. It's all about keeping track position, Doc.
Jimmy Johnson said loose in, loose off. Balance definitely changed. He moved up the track. It didn't help tighten it up. He used more front brake, left side tires, right rear adjustment, and Kyle Busch will beat him off.
Jimmy Johnson will get 2nd off the pit lane. And there are the rest of the front runners.
See that number 1 pit stall really paying off for Jimmy Johnson.
So 5th caution flag of the race is out. We go NASCAR nonstop, presented today by Nationwide Insurance. Half a lap for the restart at Texas. Kyle Busch the leader. An exchange of track position among the top 2 in the championship. Jimmie Johnson up to second. Brad Keselowski back to third. Had a little trouble getting out of his pit box.
10's not doing us any favors here. The 10 was what I was worried about when I saw the sheet coming in.
Copy that. Was could I get any further back there, or was that our limit right there?
I'll go a little more next time. She wasn't up at the front like they told me she'd be, but I kind of expect that, I guess.
Voices of Paul Wolfe and the captain Roger Penske, along with Brad Keselowski there.
All those things that matter. Just a little quicker pit stop than Jimmie Johnson, but that #1 pit stall and getting hung up just a little bit coming out of his pit stall cost him a spot.
See if this set of adjustments works better for Jimmie Johnson, as Keselowski gets it quickly to his inside and Kyle Busch gets clear.
Brad was having none of that, was he?
Jimmy might have some company from his teammate too. Jeff Gordon. Car looks pretty strong this run.
First time Gordon's really got to start right there with them and be able to clear everybody to have the leaders right there and be on their bumper.
Still having to work that throttle coming off the corner, though.
And you see how much more quickly that glare goes away behind the grandstands and suites now as we get a little bit closer to sunset. So just like the last restart, Kyle Busch, Jimmie Johnson, and Brad Keselowski first, second, and third. Kyle and Keselowski cleared Jimmie Johnson, who was in that outside lane. We're checking on how our drivers are doing in AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Out of the top 4 qualifiers, Kyle Busch is leading the pack. Remember to text FAST to 34763 to play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge, or visit attfastestdriver.com. You could have a chance to win 4 Gs by playing.
Vibration under the hood.
That's not good. Kyle Busch.
Never like to hear that on the radio, especially when you're leading. It seems like that's the time that you have these kind of problems. It never happens when you're running back in the pack.
Thinking, wasn't it the New Hampshire race when Kyle had such a strong race car and ran up front and contended for the win and had the problems under the hood eventually that cost him a chance at taking home a trophy? As Keselowski's looking. Whoa, that was close.
Well, Keselowski just got a good run off turn 2. Really closed the gap on Kyle Busch.
Can he make it stick and grab the race lead?
It'll be tough from that position right there. He's really been good down in 1 going on the bottom. Being able to let the car roll through there, he might be able to make another run at him as they exit turn 2.
Not quite as close that time. Looking at the gap, back to Jimmie Johnson in third. Keselowski a solid second, though, for the moment, Jamie.
Well, the performance today, Alan, certainly doesn't look like a guy who's finished 14th or worse all 8 of his races here. They've been adjusting on this car today, track bar only, but this last round, no changes at all. That's how good the car is, and it's continuing to get better as the sun goes down.
We've heard it several times today, Jamie, keeping up with the conditions. Keep it up with the track as it goes through these transitions into sunset. All right, let's try the outside.
Now that would be a spot that he can make this run happen right here. That's exactly what he's doing. We kind of set him up on that. He'd been down on the bottom and went in there. He's a smart young man behind the wheel of this 2 car.
Now the big run off the top of turn 4. And to the race lead, Brad Keselowski.
See, now the points are changing a little bit with that pass. Brad Keselowski now takes the point lead as they run.
And back and forth they go.
Everybody wondered, though, how would Brad Keselowski and his team rebound from losing that points lead at Martinsville last week, where the 48 car got the maximum points?
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to the guys down in the garage, and they expected Jimmy Johnson to do that at Martinsville. And so they came out of there with what they felt like was a win for their team by finishing 6th. So they felt like they came out of there with just about as much momentum as Jimmy did. And now there's no Martinsville for Jimmy left in the end. So they really feel pretty good about it.
Everybody likes to bat the topic around of who's under more pressure, the championship leader, the guy in second. Of course, both Brad and Jimmy were asked that this weekend. Here's what Brad said.
I feel like we're in a strong position to control our own destiny as far as the chase is concerned, and having a shot at winning it. And that's really about all you can ask. Certainly you'd like to have a big lead, but that's not very realistic when you're racing the best and competing against the best in any sport. So, you know, I'm happy with our position and happy with my car this weekend, and just feeling pretty good about everything.
You ought to be.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're in front.
I'd say right now he might even be a little more enthusiastic than what he was there in that. But doing a fantastic job. And as we pointed out early on, you know, if you win, that's the way that you could retake the points regardless of what Jimmy Johnson would do.
Now for 3rd place, Jeff Gordon closing on Jimmy Johnson.
I don't know if Jimmy Johnson's team getting a little behind on the adjustments, or maybe some of the other teams are just doing a little better job of adjusting to the current condition. But he's starting to slip a little bit, and Gordon's car seems to just get better and better.
And haven't really seen to this point Jimmy search around on the racetrack any. He kind of stayed with what he had, what was working early on, and maybe time for him to start searching around a little bit, Doc.
Indeed, DJ, you're exactly right. In fact, you know, he said once it cooled off, the balance changed significantly on the 48 car. They got a little freer on entry, a little freer on exit, and then Jimmy made a couple laps where he went up higher, and yesterday when he went up high, the car tightened up. Today when he went up a lap or 2, the car didn't change at all. If anything, it got freer, so now they're just having to figure out what else they can do. They've made minor adjustments all day long, nothing major. We have to make a major one in their next, which may be their final stop.
Yeah, that's the other thing here. Andy mentioned it a minute ago. We went back green with 107 to go. If these guys are getting 55 laps on fuel, and 55 is stretching it maybe a little bit.
Yeah, they would be stretching it, but somebody can probably do it.
Could be interesting. Brad Keselowski leads. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide Insurance. And we move into the later stages of race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. And the picture has changed at the front of the pack. Jimmy Johnson started on pole and dominated the opening portion of this race, leading 164 laps on the day. But as the weather conditions have changed and we approach sunset and dusk, the lead picture has changed. Jimmy Johnson is now running in 4th place, and it is Brad Keselowski, his rival for the championship, who's out in front and has pulled away from Kyle Busch after getting by him a little while ago. Now opening up a 1.9 second advantage over 2nd place. Now we take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint Network. 7 different drivers have traded the lead 14 times today. A few cycles of green flag pit stops, giving some people like Ryan Newman a chance to be out in front. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app only from Sprint. Get the app and Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. A lot of speed in this 2-car as we check in on our top 5 runners at this point. Up to speed, beginning with Jamie.
Well, Alan, you often hear teams talk about good luck charms. If something works, they keep doing it all over again. Well, if you take a look at the pit box, there's a new face up there. That's Kathy Penske, of course, the wife of Roger Penske. All of these years of racing, this is not somewhere you see her. But back in Chicago, she opted to try it out, and they won the race. Last week, she did it again. Their 6th place felt like a victory. So today, she asked if she could do it again. And look where they are, leading the race. Vince?
Second place is Kyle Busch. About 20 laps ago, he reported that there was a vibration under the hood. Hasn't had that issue since, or at least he hasn't discussed it, as you see Jeff Gordon challenging Busch now. Gordon making the pass. The issue for Kyle right now is that he's just too tight in the center and needs more grip. Dave Rogers going to work on the front of the car during the next stop.
Vince, a lot of things coming true for Jeff Gordon. His crew chief told me this morning the car didn't have first laps speed, but it came later in the run. It took 7 laps for him to get around Jimmy Johnson, his teammate. Another 6 laps to get around second place, Kyle Busch. That car is right now for Jeff at the right time in the race. Doc?
The last thing Jimmy Johnson wanted to have happen in Chad Canals today was worrying about fuel mileage and have a fuel mileage problem here. And right now, to make it on one more stop, they would have to go to lap 279 at 55 laps. From what I'm hearing here, they may be a couple laps short, which would not be good for the 48 team at all. Vince?
The 15 of Clinton Boyer running 5th. Came into this race 3rd in the championship points. His crew chief Brian Patty saying, we've got to keep the 2 and the 48 honest. Keep the pressure on. Say they're doing that running 5th, but right now the 48 and 2 both ahead of them. If they should stumble, the 15's got to be ready to pounce, but he needs a little more grip if he's to go any further forward, Alan.
And Vince, I'll add to that in the last race on one of these 1.5-mile tracks, it came down to stretching the fuel, and that car, the 15, stretched it best and took home the trophy. 81 laps to go. Brad Keselowski leads at Texas. NASCAR Nonstop presented by Nationwide Insurance. Jeff Gordon slowing from second place and slowing much more quickly than just a normal pit stop. Dave, problem with that 24?
Alan, he felt a tire going right away. He needed to go probably about another 11 laps on fuel before they'd get to their final window, but he immediately, you can see the right front is corded. In fact, it's caught up in the right front suspension there. So that was the one that was going. Jeff felt it right away, pulled over. Jimmy Johnson had to make a hard left turn to miss him, and Jeff's race has gone the wrong direction.
Now that's a pit stop with 63 to go. So what Jeff needs now is for this race to stay green until these other leaders have pitted, and then he needs a caution.
That can still work out for him, depending on how these caution flags fly, but what's going to have to happen, though, is the rest of the field is going to have to pit under green.
Oh, there it is.
Before that happens. Yeah. Almost looks exactly like Boyer's when his wore out. You see those lines? Almost looks like something's rubbing it, but that's the way it gets when it gets completely worn out.
So Jeff Gordon from second place now to needing things to fall his way to get back into contention to win this thing. He'll be driving hard on these fresh tires. Brad Keselowski still leading. We've watched Brad and his fuel-saving techniques. Now Jimmy Johnson is up into second behind him.
One thing I noticed is Keselowski picked up about 4 to 5 tenths the last few laps. Like he saved some fuel and then he kind of went back into a mode where he's running fast enough to keep Jimmy behind him.
That's the 2 with his championship rival running 1.9 seconds behind him, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, what you can, bud. Just so you know, the 2-car, he's saving fuel running faster than we are. Maybe something we learned from that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he meant by that. I think that they're watching how that this 2-car does run when they're in that fuel-saving mode, and they're seeing that they don't give up a lot of speed doing it.
Well, we have seen caution.
There you go. There's your caution.
Debris.
And that's not the caution I think Jeff needed. He'll be able to take the wave around. Yeah, but for him to actually be right back in this thing, he needed to go through the full cycle. We were only like 4 or 5 laps from it.
Yeah, and he's still going to be short of the finish on fuel probably.
And everybody else is going to be extremely close.
Yeah, this is going to test a lot of them.
Caution with 59 laps to go. 6th one of the race. I heard one of NASCAR's spotters out in the corner call in the piece of debris and then the call for the caution flag. I didn't hear where it was on the racetrack. I'm being told it's on the back straightaway out by the outside wall. You know, we've talked during NASCAR Countdown, Gene Monahan working with the Hendrick pit crews and all that goes into these athletes going over the wall to do their thing. Here's your chance.
That's what you live for right here.
It's bottom of the 9th. You're down by a run, and there's a runner on second. You're at bat, 2 outs.
Yeah, and this 48 bunch has gotten the job done. They've got that perfect pit selection, that pit stall that's helped them all day. They're going to put it to good use right here with a good stop and then getting off pit road first.
Pit stops with 58 laps to go. Will there be a twist of plot on the pit lane here that'll affect the outcome of somebody's race? Vince?
The 18 of Kyle Busch just too loose off of turn 4. As far as the 15 of Clint Boyer is concerned, he says he feels bound up in the center and needs more grip. We're going to make a chassis adjustment on that 15. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski blocked him up, trying to stop short in his box so he could get around the 10 easier. No changes. The car is good. 4 tires. Doc?
Jimmy Johnson free in, free off, chassis adjustments, right rear, left rear. Brandon Harder, the gas man, got to pack it full. To get it full, Brandon. Here comes the 18. And Jimmy Johnson also away.
And there is the twist of plot on pit road for the race leader, Brad Keselowski, who slid through his pit, had to put it in reverse to back up to get out, and he's going to lose 8 spots on the pit lane.
Yeah, he was having problems with that 10. The 10 car blocking him in, and he was supposed to stop a little bit shorter, but he actually slid way deep in the box.
Yeah, you can see he's got a good 10 feet behind him that he could have stopped. Now he's having to back up as all of these other cars go by him.
Stay cool here, guys. Stay cool.
Well, we know he's got a good car. Now he doesn't have the track position that he had. In fact, he's back to where he qualified in the number 8 spot and only got 57 laps to go.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide is on your side. The Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, long-lasting full-size pickups on the road. Papa John's, official pizza sponsor of the NFL. And AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible.
A little change on the leaderboard as we come back to chase race number 8 at Texas Motor Speedway. Caution for debris just as we were approaching green flag pit stops for the leaders, and with everybody kind of in fuel conservation mode, sets us up for a final run to the checkered where fuel may still be iffy for some folks and puts the man who was leading the race, Brad Keselowski, back deep in traffic. It happened as he was coming into his pit box.
You can see he just keeps locking those front tires up, just not able to get the car stopped.
Oh, man. That was my fault, man. I don't know why, but this thing just don't stop without locking the fronts. Dialing rear end, and I feel I'm dialing more front.
So, Keselowski's going to find himself, instead of being the race leader, in 9th place for this restart. It's going to come with 54 laps to go, the green flag will. Jeff Gordon wave around back onto the lead lap. He'll be in 25th position for the restart. Free pass to Trevor Bayne. And it'll be Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson on the front row for the restart, Doc.
And a moment ago, Chad Canals told Jimmy Johnson, hey, we are 4 laps short on fuel. Now, here's the deal. He said the 18 car may be sputtering a little bit under the hood, so they may have an engine problem. Try to get ahead of him, get the lead. If you get up front, maybe you can save some fuel. Right now, they've told Jimmy 4 laps shy of making it.
Saving some and saving 4 laps. I mean, he'd have to slow down tremendously to even try to make that happen.
Here they come to the restart. There are 25 cars on the lead lap. Jimmy Johnson dominated the early portion of the race, hasn't been as good as the shadows have drawn longer. Brad Keselowski now back in 9th position. Kyle Busch, the race leader, back after an early pit stop hiccup. Close call there. Smoke from the left front of Casey Kane.
Yeah, they were 3 and 4 wide down in one.
Still inside, quick hole behind the 99.
78 car of Kurt Busch racing Brad Keselowski in the 2 hard while they try to get around Tony Stewart.
Keselowski would like to clear this group where he could get in a situation where he might save a little bit of fuel. Right now, he can't even think about that.
Little block in there. This could get ugly. Carl Edwards trying to make a run to the inside of the 78. And as hoped for in your discussion there, DJ, the 2 gets clear of this group.
Yeah, you see Kurt Busch there in that 78. He got a great run in this car today. Been up right around the top 10 all day.
Getting knocked around a little bit by Carl Edwards right now off turn 2, though.
And 3 wide to the inside. Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano almost into Carl Edwards there. Getting tense and intense.
Yeah, laps wound down. They got some more grip. Drivers feel a little bit more like Superman here and making it happen.
These guys keep at it the way they are. I don't see this being the last of the yellow flags. There's some tempers getting heated quickly there.
I think quite a few drivers that like to see a caution. They don't want to be part of it, though.
Looks like it's settling down for a minute. So, Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Clint Bowyer, Matt Kenseth, now up into the top 5, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. into 5th.
A couple of names we haven't talked about. If we did, they were outside the top 15 most of the time there with Kenseth and Earnhardt Jr.
It's about being best when it counts the most, and in this case, Dave, it's when the sun goes down.
He was just a little bit tight entering the corner, so they put just a small piece of bright orange tape on the front of the car to help the turn in right there. And as far as fuel mileage goes, crew chief Steve Letarte said, "We're better than most," and then he added this.
All right, listen, man, I want you to go hard. Those guys are talking about being short. 18 says he's short. We're not. We're within a half a lap, probably within a half a lap. So I want you to run hard, and we'll get in the last 5 if we got to get it. So you just go. Push him. Don't let him coast.
If the race stays green, don't expect to see the 88 back on pit road. Vince?
The 17 of Matt Kenseth has really rallied. He's up in the top 5, currently running 4th. Look at that damage on the left rear from the contact earlier in the race. And Jimmy Fennig's got this car tuned up. He says that it's feeling pretty good. Kenseth said it's been a little bit free, but otherwise it's fine. Trying to save his tires if he knows what's going on behind him.
Matt Kenseth as low as 27th place in this race at one point, Vince. Now he's up running 4th.
Incredible. Look at the top 12. There's 10 chase drivers and then 2 drivers named Busch.
Kyle leading, Kurt running 11th. And what about this 48? What a twist of picture all of a sudden in this race on that last set of pit stops.
Yeah, you know, and how things have seemed to work out for this 2 bunch a lot of times. And even though they didn't want to be back in that position, they'd rather be up front saving fuel. I think back in this position, they know right now all they have to do is try to save enough fuel to make it to the end, and they're going to beat this 48 if this goes green.
Yeah, that's a lot of ifs in there, though. If a caution does come out, though, they want to be up closer. They need to be able to be within striking distance to be able to race the 48. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for them.
Remember Doc Punch's report a little bit ago. Chad Knaus telling Jimmy Johnson to go on the restart. They would try and get away a little bit from the 18 if they could, and then try and pace to save fuel. Well, they weren't able to get clear or get away from the 18. Now we'll keep an eye on the lap times of both of these front runners and see if they both go into any kind of conservation mode together.
I'm like Dale. I don't think that you can save 4 laps without slowing down a lot. I don't think he's going to be able to race this 18 and save any fuel. I think if they're 4 laps short, they're still 4 laps short.
Doc, there's a lot of racing knowledge on that 48 pit box to figure this all out.
Indeed there is, and with fuel a big concern, there is the good luck charm that Rick Hendrick brought today. Legendary Hall of Fame car owner Junior Johnson. All the years I've talked to Junior when he had Cale Yarborough or Darrell Waltrip Jr., one of the best at getting fuel mileage out of his cars and getting him to victory lane. He came to the race today for Rick Hendrick. I said, Rick, what's this guy doing here? He said, well, you know what? We can use all the knowledge we can get. And Junior was always one of the best. Plus, he's always been a great good luck charm to win races. How about having Junior here, a Hall of Famer on their box today?
Great to see him here today.
I know he worked hard on fuel mileage, but in some other different areas too. They seem to find a really good way of getting a lot more fuel in their cars.
Maybe those areas he used you can't use anymore.
See those numbers, wins as a driver, 153 wins, 153 as a team owner in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series for Junior Johnson. Another spot for Keselowski. That's 6th. He's just taken away from Greg Biffle.
Yeah, if he's going to try to win, I'd have to think that maybe, just by what we saw at Charlotte, Clint Boyer up there in 3rd may be somebody he's going to have to deal with in this fuel situation too. So he doesn't want to let him get too far away.
And then in the last stretch the fuel mileage race, Clint Boyer took home the trophy, and Vince, that 15 car, is running in 3rd.
You know, it's interesting because, DJ, just as you mentioned Charlotte, Brian Patty radioed to Clint Boyer and said, it's just like Charlotte. They're good to the end. They're telling Clint Boyer, we've got enough gas to get there, the others don't. So Clint Boyer might be sitting in the catbird seat, sitting 3rd with about 40 laps to go.
Well, Vince, this race went green with 54 laps to go on a 1.5-mile track in Charlotte. Clint Boyer and Brian Patty and this team went 56 laps on a 1.5-mile track to go to victory lane. How's it going to play out in Texas today? NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Nationwide Insurance. Down to the final 35 laps of chase race number 8 at the Texas Motor Speedway, with Kyle Busch leading Jimmy Johnson and Clint Boyer. We look ahead to next weekend, and it's on to the Valley of the Sun in Phoenix International Raceway. The NASCAR Nationwide Series on Saturday with their terrific championship duel, 3:30 Eastern on ESPN next Saturday. Next weekend also the finale for the NHRA Series, the Automobile Club of Southern California NHRA Finals, qualifying 10:45 Eastern Saturday on ESPN2. Race 9 in the chase, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Phoenix next Sunday, 2 Eastern ESPN. And the finals for the NHRA, the Auto Club of Southern California NHRA Finals. You like that? 7 Eastern next Sunday on ESPN2.
Final.
Well, last one of the season in Pomona, right? So let's sum up the various storylines that are playing out here in these final 33 laps of this race. Kyle Busch out in front, leading with 33 to go. Noting that in the last 8 Texas races, the final lead change has taken place inside the last 31 laps.
That'd be the final lead change?
Maybe. Jimmy Johnson running 2nd. Johnson dominated the early part of this race. As shadows grew long and the sun set, he fell back a little bit. They've adjusted on that car. They've brought it back up into the number 2 spot. There's Jimmy Johnson right now. Clint Boyer trying to stay in contact for the championship. Running in 3rd position, says they're good to go to the finish on fuel in that 15 car. He won the last race on a 1.5-mile track where fuel mileage came into play. That at Charlotte back in the month of October. Matt Kenseth running in 4th. His car has come to life in the transition from daylight to sunset. Kenseth as low as 27th earlier in the race. Top 5 now, pursuing what would be his 3rd win in the chase for Roush Fenway Racing. And for the rally that Matt Kenseth has driven through in this race, all the way back into the top 5 from as low as 27th. We make him our Goodyear Superior Performer for today. Great drive, great job by Matt, Jimmy Fennig, and this whole 17 team.
Yeah, they seemed to be so far out to lunch at the start of this race. I expected maybe they would change positions by about 8, but that would have been going forward. But they fell way back and done a nice job in recovering from that.
And the other major story in the late stages of this race, Brad Keselowski leading the race when the caution waved for debris at lap 275. Came down pit road wanting to stop short in his box because on the prior pit stop he'd gotten blocked in by the car in front of him, Danica Patrick's. He slid through the pit box, had to back up to get out, went from leading to 9th place on the restart. Now Keselowski's running 5th, 3 1/3 seconds behind the leader with laps running out.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, watch these lap times. He's had the fastest laps on the racetrack, probably half of this run. He's not saving any fuel. He's just running as hard as he can, and he's made up a lot of spots.
And there's the other story hanging over the finish of this race. Barring a caution flag, what is the fuel picture like on all of these front-running cars, Doc?
Well, Rick Hendrick up on the box watching the calculation. Rick, we showed him, everyone, your good luck charm here, the legendary Junior Johnson you brought to the track today. We've heard Chad Canals tell Jimmy earlier on you're 3 or 4 laps short, and now he said you've saved enough. We think you can make it. How close is it, Rick?
We're close. We just got to wait and see. We're probably within a lap, but I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. But Junior's supposed to be my lucky charm, so we'll see.
They've told Rick Hendrick it could be a half a lap short or a half a lap to good, Alan. And Rick said, I don't know. That's right now he's a very nervous car owner.
I don't blame him. Don't blame him. The big gamble here is with right now 25 cars. I'm not sure how many of those may have to hit pit road, but with 25 cars on the lead lap and you don't make it, that could be devastating to your championship hopes.
Man, if you want to try to save a little bit, we were actually going faster when you were saving.
Well, maybe that's why he's up there racing for the lead.
Oh.
These are really fast lap times that these leaders are running if they're trying to save any fuel at all. I mean, we're down under 31 seconds.
Yeah, that's another thing that happens is this track cools off and the air gets denser. They'll start using more fuel just because they're running faster, also because of the better air that goes in the engine.
And, if you're
Brad Keselowski now is pushing the clutch back in, saving fuel through the corner. He wasn't doing that for a lot of laps. I think Dale and I were speculating maybe he wanted to get by a lot of the cars that he was quicker than and just try to get in this spot. He's sitting in 4th place, and he can start saving a little fuel now. I actually was wondering whether he could make it or not when I didn't see him trying to save.
Trouble, turn 1, car hard in the wall. Marcos Ambrose. And the whole picture changes again.
He hit it pretty hard there, Drew.
Heavy damage, heavy damage.
Marcos Ambrose running 22nd at the time. We have seen a couple of other times in this race teams have some troubles on the right front. Caught them before anything like this happened.
But he hit it a ton. I don't
it's
think the power might even be up though. Hard to tell because it's dangling there.
Well, now you just need speed.
Need speed. Now what you need is a good pit stop first.
From your pit crew and in your car.
7th caution, top of the screen.
Well, you can see just something in the right front.
Yeah, and you can see the one, if there's an upside to it whatsoever, that he was high entering the corner, so the impact into turn 1 wall wasn't nearly as severe if he had been on the bottom.
So, pit stops coming here.
Pit road is open.
You'll see everybody changing 4 tires.
Yep.
It's really going to be up to the pit crews to get this thing done for them. We've seen that 2 car have problems with the 10 car in front of them and not able to get out of their pit stall. That's going to happen again here.
Yeah, Brad's going to have to make sure that he does stop plenty short to give himself an out.
22 laps to go for these pit stops. Time for the crews to shine. Vince, here they come.
Well, the 18 was not going to make it on fuel without this yellow. He's still too loose, needs help on entry. It'll be a 4-tire change and air pressure on the 18, upper left of your screen. Boyer, they're going to take a little more wedge out of the left rear. 4 tires. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski being very careful. He slid through his box last time and lost 8 positions. It's going to be 4 tires. That's it. But you saw Danica Patrick pitting as well, Doc.
Jimmy Johnson had to go around the damaged car of Marcus Ambrose on pit road. Now he will get 4 tires. He's also loose entry, loose exit. Going to top it off with fuel left side tires going on, being very deliberate, and he will follow the 18 off of pit road.
Another strategy call by Paul Wolf for the 2 team.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one, though.
They put 2 on earlier in the day, but they didn't have as many laps on the left sides at that time. But can it work? They were really strong with those 2 tires. That man likes to gamble.
They had exactly 10 laps on the left sides. They had stopped under green at lap 91. They pitted under caution at 101 and put just the rights on then. And it worked out pretty well. They held their track position, but now they were on pit road at 276. And this is 312. Well,
yeah, I'm not sure about that call. I think that I thought they had enough car. They'd just come out where they went in, and with 4 tires, that they might be able to drive up by all these cars. But with 2 tires, I'm not so sure they can hold them all.
Certainly be interesting. A big thing that Brad Keselowski will have to do is make sure that he keeps those left sides really cleaned off here. Tough place to restart. We heard Rusty Wallace talk earlier about how flat this front straightaway is. Makes it difficult, so he'll have to make sure he really keeps them clean.
Keselowski was 4th going down the pit lane. Clint Boyer finds himself now back in 6th position. Traffic jam there. So Clint Boyer in the mix, but didn't make out the best on that jam up situation on the pit road. As we work the caution with 21 to go, DJ. He's our in-race reporter today.
Hey Clint, Dale Jarrett, you with us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I know you've had a good race car and it's down to time to win, but we just replayed what happened there on pit road. Cost you a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I just kind of got sandwiched there, but it ain't over. We got the leader there on 2 tires. Who knows what's going to happen there, so just keep digging in.
Hey, Clint, can you give us an idea of just how much more grip this racetrack has now than it had earlier today?
Well, it's just faster. It's kind of weird at grip level. You know, as far as sliding around, it's kind of about the same. We're just doing it a little faster.
All right, thanks for talking. Good luck in these last laps.
Thanks.
Some wave arounds being sent past the race leader. Jeff Burton got the free pass. He's back on the lead lap in 25th position, and Brad Keselowski going to pick the inside lane for this restart after that call by Paul Wolf, Jamie.
Well, actually, what makes these 2 dynamic is they go back and forth about the call themselves. Paul Wolf said, I think 4 tires here. Brad was thinking maybe 2. They went back and forth. They took right sides only. And Paul said, we have a plan going in, but if Brad wants to do something, I trust him.
Well, they did this at Martinsville, and they fared fairly well, and they were within a whisker of faring really well.
Yeah, I was talking to Brad on Friday before practice started. He said all I needed was 2 more cars to stay out with me last week at Martinsville, and his plan would have worked. We'll see how this one works out for him. Not afraid to make a call inside there.
So take the fuel out of the question. Now it's about speed. The leader, Brad Keselowski, from 4th to 1st with just right side tires only. All the other cars around him have 4 fresh tires. Kyle Busch to his outside, Jimmy Johnson on his bumper, Matt Kenseth also in row 2, Dale Jr. and Clint Boyer in row 3. We go green with 19 to go.
Like Kyle Busch was going to make a move to get the lead there. Brad's not letting that happen.
Kyle, though, going to try and get the run on the outside off turn 4. Keselowski clears him into the lead. Matt Kenseth racing with Jimmy Johnson for 3rd.
Well, Brad made the call. It's up to him to make it work now. I'm impressed so far.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Tony Stewart getting a spot from Clint Boyer. Stewart to 6th, Boyer to 7th.
Tony Stewart finds some speed here as the racetrack is cooled down. He got a little bit of grip too.
And you'll see Jeff Gordon flash past there back in the pack. Remember, Gordon had to come to pit road with that right front tire going down. Had to take the wave around on a caution. He's lead lap, trying to pick his way back up from 25th. He's in 13th now. Tough break for the 24. So Brad Keselowski out in front. Jimmy Johnson running 3rd, Kyle Busch between them, 16 laps to go.
Completely jumped the start, NASCAR. Good for my man.
Yeah, I saw
2 tires, man. No problem.
I couldn't see the line exactly from our vantage point, but it looked like Brad Keselowski caught everybody a little bit there. Probably went as soon as he possibly could. Not sure if it was too early, and I think that if it was, NASCAR would have said something by now.
Chad basically trying to say to Jimmy, it's okay, we've got better tires, we'll get him.
Well, we got 14 laps to get it done now.
Some hard racing between Biffle and Jeff Gordon back there almost created a problem off turn 4.
Everybody got away, and we stay clean. One car up the track, turn 2, now into the wall. Casey Kane.
Inside on the bottom.
Left rear's down on the 5 car.
Right side somewhere inside. Quick hold down. Quick hold down. Go slow. Go slow. Keep rolling it here. Got a whole field to come by.
Caution is out. Debris from the 5 car. And all that worked Brad Keselowski did on the restart to try and get away. He's gone.
Well, now he's going to have to make that decision. Is he going to start the inside, which I think that he probably will. He's got the guy he's racing for the championship going to be on his outside now.
Now, the right side damage came from hitting the wall. The left side damage might have come from this.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about as they were racing off there. I didn't see all of that contact, but obviously Casey King got the worst end of it.
And Jeff Gordon's got some pretty good damage on his right front now, too. Well, thought Casey would be a factor to run up front for the win with this thing, especially the later on in the race that it went, but that did not pan out for the 5 team tonight. And this is going to cost him. He was kind of hanging on there in the championship. Started the day 4th, 29 points off the lead. This is going to cause him a very poor finish here, and that's probably the end of it.
Yeah, he'll be eliminated from that. Not mathematically, but it's not going to happen for him this year. He needed to come here and win this race today to keep his championship hopes alive. Yep. Back to Jimmy's comments about where the two took off on that last restart. So now Brad's got them. He's in their head a little bit here. So what does he do this time? Has he possibly left somewhere close to a little bit early? Now does he slow them down, wait till the very end, and or is he going to take off again early like that?
Shake that off now, buddy. Now's your opportunity.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for my opportunity. I just can't believe the things they let slip.
So here is the zone for the restart.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, it didn't look from that like he went early.
I didn't see anything wrong there. I mean, we're watching it in slow motion. Jimmy's seeing it from behind the wheel, but I didn't see anything that drew my eye.
If I could say anything that he did, he may, after the pace car went in, that his rolling may have picked up just a little bit. He got a rolling start where with those left side tires like that, he might not have been able to spin the tires quite as easily.
Check downstairs with Doc.
Well, let's check in with Chad Canals here, who's watching as the record has pulled the 9 away on pit road, and we'll get with Chad here a second. Chad, obviously, Jimmy a little upset on the restart. You calmed him back down, but you seem to be very confident your 4 tires on the 48 are better than what the 2's got with 2 tires.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how it all unfolds. I think Jimmy's done a really good job today. The pit crew's done a good job, and we've led some laps, and we're in position here at the end, and that's all we can really ask for come the end of the race.
Did you see an issue at all with the start on the 2 just a moment ago? Jimmy seemed to be so upset about that.
Oh, he wasn't that upset. I think we haven't had an opportunity to look at it too closely. We've been pretty busy racing. You guys get a better view of that than we do.
All right, Chad Canals, obviously, basically on the radio trying to calm Jimmy down, and he told Jimmy a moment ago, look, you're getting ready to blow by that 2 car with your 4 tires. Just stay calm.
10th place, Eric Almirola, the first one to make a break for the pit lane. Be some fresh tires coming from the back of the pack on this restart. Dave?
Jeff Gordon figured he probably had a right front going down, so they'll go ahead and replace all 4 tires, fix some of the damage on that right front, and send him back out. But he didn't want to take any chances after all that contact with Casey Kane.
And even within this group, a little strategy played, just right side tires for Ryan Newman's team to get off the pit lane first of this group of cars. And that damage on that 24, a lot worse than it looked initially from the distance.
Yeah, a lot of contact they had. Yeah, they got to get that fixed. They're going to cut another right front down.
So as we continue to work the caution, Jimmy Johnson getting by Kyle Busch for second place just before the yellow. Kyle now back in third and also thinking about restarts.
I sure wish NASCAR would do anything about everybody jumping the restart mark. He went 3 car lengths early. I don't know what we can do to beat that.
Well, you've got officials sitting up here that it's going to be really hard for them to tell from their vantage point, unless it's just a lot more than 3 car lengths. I mean, to see these cars start accelerating that much early, I understand the frustration from the driver's seat because you can see that you're right there, but the officials that have to make that call aren't exactly in the best vantage point to make a call like that, and unless they're absolutely sure and it's just completely obvious, then they're probably not going to make a call.
And restart games have been a part of racing since all these guys ran their first street stock race on a Saturday night somewhere.
I'm not sure that we've seen the end of what may happen here with the little games too.
This was the last restart.
This is where I think he just picks the speed up a little bit. He really accelerates there right at the line a little bit, but it looked like that he started that rolling a little bit faster before he did get to that line, but it doesn't say you can't do that. It says you cannot take off and accelerate at full speed. What shall he do this time?
Yep, 8 laps to go. This time it's Jimmy Johnson to Keselowski's outside. And again, remember, the 2 car changing just the right side tires on the pit stop back at lap 312. Kyle Busch now behind Keselowski. Will it be 3 wide into turn number 1? Kyle's got some awfully good restarts today. Pace car's off. Time to settle it.
Green.
Whoa, hang on.
Loose.
Wow. It is going at it for the race lead. The top two in the championship clanging off each other. Nobody giving ground.
Corner tight, clear. Clear 1, 2 back to the 18. 2 back, 18.
Well, I don't know how he came as hard off of turn 4 after being so loose down the middle of turn 3.
Johnson clears Kyle Busch to stay in second. Incredible racing by the top two in the championship. Neither one wanting to give an inch.
I think Brad's kind of running for his life right now. If that 48 gets back there, it's not going to be very pretty.
Kyle Busch inside of Jimmy for second.
Yeah, Jimmy looks like he's struggling right now. His car really loose on the exit right at this point.
Yeah, I think he buzzed that right rear, taking a little time to recover. He didn't have a lot of time. He's only got 5 to go.
Oh, trouble. Mark Martin out of control off turn 4, back into traffic. And somehow everybody gets by. Now.
Yeah, now.
The tone of how they're going to race for this has been set.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. The gloves are off here.
Refuse to lose this damn championship.
So, caution out for a spin by Mark Martin off of turn number 4. Now,
like everybody just ran out of room. That's a tough place on this track too, is where that track flattens out off turn 4. It really kind of forces everybody together. And that abrupt transition into that grass, see it just destroying another front end.
A lot of good driving behind this to avoid hitting Mark Martin as he spun down the front straightaway right back in front of a lot of traffic.
That for sure. Setting up another restart to decide this race.
This one will probably be a green-white checker too.
And after this action on the last restart, I'd say the tempers and the tension's a little bit elevated here.
Yeah, this is where Brad's really been able to excel on these restarts right there, but he got a little loose. Jimmy was able to hang on his outside, but Brad recovered. See, Jimmy got a little bit sideways, a little contact there. I think that'd have been a dead heat if that were the last lap. And then Brad kind of using the 48 up a little bit right there.
Not once, but twice. And Mark Martin has had to stop his car, unable to drive it back around. But obviously he is out and is okay. Just a couple of cars on the lead lap pitting. Looks like Denny Hamlin might have gotten the nose of that 11 car beaten up, judging by the geyser of steam.
They had picked up some grass too that came out there on the track from that spin from Mark Martin.
Yeah, it's really been a disappointing day for Denny Hamlin. They've run extremely well on these mile-and-a-half throughout the year. Today, not one of those better days for them.
Casey Kane's crew here trying to repair their car. They got a pretty good amount of damage on that right side especially. Cut that left rear down when he and Jeff Gordon got together.
You know, I was at this race a year ago where Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards finished 1-2, raced so hard. Then they went down to Homestead, finished 1-2, set up what we all consider to be the greatest championship we've seen in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series when it takes the tiebreaker to break the deadlock after the last race to determine who wins the championship. Well, so far in this chase, Jimmie Johnson and Brad Keselowski have gone toe-to-toe on several occasions and came into this race separated by just 2 points atop the standings. It was at Chicagoland in the opening race of the chase where Brad followed Jimmy for a long time, and then on the last exchange of pit stops raced him hard off the exit of the pit lane and came up in front. Then at Dover they went at it again, side by side for the race lead. Keselowski winning that race to establish the tone of his chase with 2 wins in those opening races of the championship. After Johnson got the victory at Martinsville last Sunday and assumed the championship lead, they've come to Texas this weekend. Jimmy won pole position. Keselowski qualified 8th. Strategy got the 2 car to the front after the 48, dominated early. Then the 2 made a mistake on pit road, shuffled himself back. Another strategy call got him back to the front and set up that last restart. Give no, take all was the mode there. And now we're going racing for 3 final laps in the first attempt at a green-white checker finish.
Yeah, you can't make a mistake here and spin the tires. You could cost yourself any chance at all, whether you're Jimmie Johnson or Brad Keselowski, if you should do that from the front row. Dale Jr. there in 4th. He'd love to have an opportunity right here to get himself in that mix.
Fans on their feet. 2 laps to go at Texas. Green flag.
Tight 2x2. Watch the bottom.
Jimmie Johnson clears around the outside. That's Carl Edwards' car that's smoking back in the pack. We stay under green. White flag. We are on the last lap. Jimmie Johnson getting away. Can Keselowski hold off Kyle Busch for second place? Busch to the inside in the final corners.
Jimmie Johnson.
It's going to be Keselowski finishing second behind his rival for the championship. Back-to-back wins for the 5-time champ. Jimmie Johnson scores at Texas.
Well done, everybody. Well done.
What a race.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think Jimmie Johnson learned something from the restart before, because you could see how hard he was able to get back in the gas and clear Brad Keselowski on that restart off of turn 2.
Yeah, I think Keselowski did all he could on the tires he had. He had those right sides. It was really kind of an unfair fight, but he did a really good job racing Jimmie Johnson there and holding off Kyle Busch.
Yeah, once again.
Blinders on. 2 more of these victories we got to get. We got a big one waiting for us.
Yeah, maximum points day. Once again, that's what this 48 is best at.
Done it 2 weeks in a row. He did that one on purpose, boy. He actually, I mean, he had his mindset on taking that lead, and he wasn't going to settle for anything but.
It's just so incredibly difficult to do as a driver whenever you don't have the preferred line, but to just make that commitment as to what you're going to do to try to get the lead before you give that other car and driver an opportunity as you go down into the next corner.
And think about all the ups and downs of this race for just these top 2 in the championship, right? Johnson dominant early, slipped back a little bit, and came back to the front late. Jimmie Johnson with a Goodyear superior performance today. Maximum points, as you mentioned, led the most laps, but boy, did he have to race hard to earn that trophy.
That's something Jimmie Johnson is not afraid to do. You know, there's a lot of times we don't talk about sometimes just how tough he is inside that race car when the situation becomes even more difficult, and he takes advantage and makes it happen. But you got to give this man a lot of credit too, right there. Dave Burns, he drove a great race.
He drove it real hard. Brad, describe those final laps and finishing second tonight.
man, I thought I had it, but we kept getting all of them yellows and just kept giving them more shots. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to execute every restart, and Jimmy did a great job on the last one. And I had to choose between wrecking him and winning the race, and didn't seem right to wreck him. So ran him hard, and we're going to keep him honest. And I know if we keep running like this, that we won't be beat.
This is how NASCAR racing's supposed to be, Alan.
Just tremendous. And the final restart with Johnson and Keselowski. And it looks like the back end of this two-car just wiggles a little bit.
Yeah, great anticipation by Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, he beats Brad to the line just barely, but you don't really, they don't call it that close. That was just a great restart for the 48.
And then when he went into turn 1 and 2, he just hung it on the outside and ran around and made it stick.
Yeah, you can see he got down there and kind of crowded Brad just a little bit more than what he had been the time before, and I think that was the real key.
And so with another maximum points day for Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, believe it or not, finds himself with his largest deficit of the chase. 7 points, 2 races to go. Eliminated from the championship, Kevin Harvick and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Anyone 97 points or more back is out of mathematical contention for the title. Well, Kyle Busch was right in there till the end, Vince. A nice rally for the 18.
Was indeed. He's had a good chase, couple of races that have not gone his way, but second last week at Martinsville, third today. Thought you had something to work with there right at the end.
Yeah, we did. We were really fast if we could get out front. You know, our Snickers peanut butter squared Camry was good, and we had a fast race car tonight. Can't say enough about all the guys. They did a great job for me. Just you know, there at the end, we wanted to get through there and get out front, and be gone, but just couldn't get there. Those guys were battling hard, and you could kind of see it from my seat, anyways, what they were doing and how hard they were going at it. Of course, that's what you got to do to win a Sprint Cup championship. But good night for us. I wish we were, you know, in the deal, but you know, that's what next year's for.
Thanks, Kyle. Alan?
Well, what are we going to see in these final 2 races as we look ahead to next weekend? Phoenix International Raceway, and of course the grand finale at the Homestead Miami Speedway in South Florida, 2 Eastern time, both those races on ESPN. And join us at the track. I know Phoenix announced a grandstand sellout this week for next Sunday's race, but they've got that big hillside. Bring the blanket, come on out and see how it all plays out.
It's going to be a good one. We're going to see these 2 teams really going at it at Phoenix and at Homestead.
Should be a lot of fun. And you know, we talked to Kyle Busch there. His brother Kurt Busch drove to an 8th place finish here today. A great job by that team.
Well, for the second week in a row, we go to Victory Lane, presented by Tire Rack, and Jimmy Johnson's car is parked there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And if he's proud of my guys, we kept digging all night long.
Round 8 of this heavyweight championship we call the chase for the Sprint Cup. And Jimmy, you guys went bare knuckles those final 2 restarts. You said you're not going to get into verbal sparring. You're going to let your driving do the talking. What kind of statement were you making with that final restart?
Well, I mean, it was an awesome race, you know, and great way to put it, and the gloves are off, and it's bare knuckle fighting. I have a lot of respect for that 2 team. Those guys are doing a great job. Today, I think our cars were pretty equal throughout the course of the race, and at the end of the race, we were on 4 and had to take advantage of it. That second to last restart was pretty sketchy a couple times, and how close we were and how hard we were racing, but luckily we brought the cars back. Another caution came out, and got a great restart and got by him, and knew that we had the speed if I could just get by him, and got the slow Chevy to victory lane.
Brad said on the radio prior to the final restart, I'm not going to lose this championship this way. What does that mean coming up at Phoenix and Homestead?
Well, I expect you know, a lot of hard racing. I mean, that's what we've seen all year long, all chase long. You know, you can't count those guys out. There were times today late in the race where they're pretty far back and still work their way up to the front. So they're keeping us honest, they're pressing us hard. But I'm very proud of the Slows team and everything they've done. And before we go off the air, I just want to let everybody know that the Racing for Relief Fund that Hendrick Motorsports and myself are matching, what Lowe's is doing, thinking of everybody up in the Northeast and all the troubles they've had with Sandy, and 700 wins for Chevrolet. So big day all in all.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Jimmy Johnson in Victory Lane, Nicole, second week in a row from the pole.
We'll pack things up from Texas and head on to Phoenix. It's the NASCAR Nationwide Series next Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on ESPN, and then Sunday, the Sprint Cup Series race from Phoenix, 2 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. 2 races to go. 7 points between Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski. Jimmy Johnson with the win in Texas. Congratulations to him once again. Up next, it's SportsCenter with more from Texas.